everybody, to another episode of the Monitor Keeping Podcast. And we have a guest today, so you don't just have to hear me and Kai talk about all the stuff we got going on. So first I'll introduce Kai, and then Kai will introduce our guest. So Kai, how you been, man?
Man, I don't know. I've been busy, but I'll take all the bad or all the mess as long as it gives me coli every few months, man. So,
yeah,
I'll take it all as long as I get to hatch. You know, even if I'm going through all the stuff I'm kind of going through personally, I'm still, trucking along, and it's just, it's a slow process, I guess. It's because I'm trying to understand everything, and like as far as getting down clutches and breeding them and things like that. So I'm still steady. It's just there's a whole lot of life thing right now.
Yeah.
But I'll get into introducing Rob. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan. What do you want to say? Anything?
Oh no. Go ahead with Rob first, and then
I just wanted to introduce Rob. Now, some of you may have heard Rob here on before, just about his previous projects, and also the Rudy coli as well. I think he was on that episode. And we're just happy to have him back here again because he's basically doing more magic with his stuff at home. And today, we're trying to do not just his achievements with other monitors, but we're going to mostly talk about the Nile Monitor project. And so, absolutely. Yeah, man, Rob, glad to have you back, man. I know you and I have grown a lot closer over the last couple of years and everything like that. And so, yeah, man, I appreciate you, not on a personal level, but also on a monitor keeper and reptile keeper level, man. And so glad to have you back, man.
I'm glad to be here. Like I said, I appreciate the fact that it seems like in the last decade, more people are more excited about some of these projects, it feels like.
Yeah.
I've seen so many obscure monitor species that I would have never guessed were going to be bred in the same year. And 2023 has just got a mess of them.
Yeah.
No, it's congratulations to all those guys too, and we'll do a little highlight on them as well. Now, Rob, let's just talk about some of the stuff you're hashing. How about that? Well, let's go with that. There's a long list here.
You know what? I told everyone I picked a heck of a year to decide to go all out on it. With how everything's been up and down, let me tell you. I mean, we have Heloderma cooking right now. We have 2 clutches of rudicolus. We have multiple clutches of Celebensis crosses, and the like. Bivitatis, Salvatore Bivitatis, we have hatching and still cooking. Niles. We have 2 clutches of Niles now, which I never would have guessed we were going to get Niles this year. I mean, we just brought that male in as a rescue maybe a year ago, give or take, like about 40 inches long. I thought I way overpaid for a female that I got from Steph Tracy. Man, about 8 months later, never overpaid a dime. Let me tell you, she's worth every penny.
Good stuff.
Man.
I mean, we hit 320 eggs in the incubator this year.
Oh, bro. And so you had to upgrade incubators twice in like 6 months, right?
Yeah, I had to buy 2 5-foot by almost 4-foot incubators from Custom Glass Terrariums.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's crazy how you go.
They hold like 150 eggs in each one, something like that.
Yeah. It's crazy how you go from that little tan or off-white colored one you got to the ones now, right? It's just
The self-made mini fridges by the guy who never had a technological bone in his body, never learned how to build anything besides on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is so nice. You don't see condensation on all the egg containers now. I don't have to always just watch them. Half the fears.
Yeah. I love when the incubators kind of just work for you. Like right now, the one that I have from Sea Serpents, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful thing. I love it. But damn, I got to babysit the thing. I don't know. It's just, I feel like maybe my temperatures change a little bit too much where I have to adjust. And I'm kind of on the ball with that because I kind of peep in there every day. But it's good when an incubator just does what it's supposed to do. There's not very much fluctuation. It holds well. Now that it's winter here and it's hot during the day, but very cold in the morning. And so, my temperatures change a lot. It can go from, like right now, it's up in the 80s in my house, but earlier this morning it was like 50s, and it's just So, yeah, man. So let's get Alan.
I was just going to say, yeah, temps right now are all over the place.
All over.
Everywhere. Let me tell you, we're hitting 70-degree days and then 30-degree nights.
Yep, kind of similar where I'm at. And so I have one group of animals in the garage, not in the basement. So the garage, it's not insulated. So, to them I say good luck, but they're the sand monitors. So hey, it's time to show what you're capable of, because it's not getting too much better for you this year. I'm thinking about draping some stuff over it and doing kind of one of those makeshift. I know there's a few different things I can do. Right now they're fine, but definitely cooling them off this winter and letting them go into that brumation mode. And
I basically just put pink foam around my incubator. Pink foam, the thick pink foam from Home Depot. Yeah, I just got that, cut it to shape, and it's not ideal, but it basically blocks it from getting so much cold draft.
Yeah, I have some of those styrofoam. I think they're maybe 3/4 inch, so I'm going to double those up and just duct tape them around the.
And that's how my old garage was. I had it all taped down the garage door and all that.
Yep.
The new house, I pre-rip tile set it up. I put a whole separate electric box in the basement. I put a separate furnace in the garage here. So we have a 3-car garage so that they could do all the brumation and hold the temperatures and all that.
Yeah.
We added one of those automatic gas-powered generators. Oh, yeah. It automatically kick on. Within 30 seconds of basically you lose power, it kicks on. That's
where I want to get to.
Oh, man. It was last year. That was when I made that big jump.
Yeah.
I said I really wanted 2023. Anyone who knows me, I talk a lot. So it was kind of time to back it up a little bit. All the stuff I preached kind of show that there was something to it. And I finally have been raising some of these animals for the last 4 years, give or take, a lot of the collection. It was kind of like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
New place, new space, brand new cages that I just built. All the different changes I said I made to the house. I made this place ready for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's very good. And then,
I guess we'll get into that now. All that, all that stuff you did. How's it paying off for you? You talked about
spades. In spades.
It's real crazy. Like at first, and I think that was a few years ago when you did the. Dang, what was that locality called?
I did the Simbawa Bibs in 2017 there, yeah.
So,
and then we had the freeze in 2018 that killed basically all my entire collection, more or less, besides 3 animals.
Yeah.
And that was Lucifer, the Nile Monitor, at the start of this whole project. I came in, and then I had my one Rudicolus, Athena, at my personal house at the time, so she didn't have to go through that cold. And then 4 animals. One of the Rudy, she passed now. Yeah. But she had survived as well. And so this whole collection basically has been restarted since 2018.
Yeah.
And it's been a passion project, to say the least. The Nile Monitors, I think I overthought them early on when I was trying to produce them the first couple times. We tried to do kind of I'm not very patient. I try to buy adult animals for my projects. I'm not the most patient guy. This 6-month wait drives me up a wall. That's why I need to have some of this production. So now it's like, something's hatching every month. Thank God, because I'm too ADHD not to kind of have something to do.
Yeah.
And it kind of moves me along a little bit more, keeps me driven. But with the Nile Monitors, I always said, I bought the females that were adults, and kind of like everybody else, I thought, these are tough animals. They should be okay. There's not much people can do to ruin them, and I was wrong. I think
I hate to laugh, but I've been there.
So what do you think you did wrong?
Well, I think the most damning thing about them is their reputation for being so tough.
Yeah.
I think the majority of the adults that we see in captivity right now are males, and the majority of females, from my experience, die by their 3rd year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is from at least what I saw. You bought 2 adult females for Lucifer in the past. A lot of people kind of followed that project when I had some females for them. And both of them actually ended up gravid. And both of them died of what the vet was calling colitis during the egg process, during development of the eggs.
Yeah.
And the theory that the vet had given us was essentially mass systematic dehydration that basically had ruined their internal organs, so that finally when they came into, you might say, proper care, and this very stressful event occurred, that's natural cycle, basically there's that inflammation, whatever caused their the egg duct or whatever that's called to burst.
Okay.
Both of them had it ruptured from the rubbing. It was almost like deja vu. We had it happen 2 years in a row.
No, I think when the vet says that, it's like, I mean, I guess for everybody that's listening, I didn't really get that. It's kind of like you raise something its whole life this way, right? Like, or, you know, for
these
years,
were bought as adults from other people.
Right,
these were bought as adults from other people.
So they were raised this way, and then Rob gives them like perfection, but it's that their body isn't conditioned to it, which is why they couldn't take the whole 9 yards. And so,
and it's like someone you see with imports sometimes with their kidneys. When a really fresh import comes in and someone overfeeds them right away, overhydrates them right away, tries to give them the best intention, it ultimately shuts their system down because they just weren't ready for it yet.
Yeah. That's funny. You know, we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit, but I don't know if we've really gotten into it too much on the podcast at all, but how animals will acclimate to maybe the wrong conditions. And we think because they're now acclimated. And the truth is, a lot of times they'll still breed in wrong conditions. You just won't get the greatest success or whatnot with that animal. So I don't even...
I've seen it in a lot of things, going from geckos, bearded dragons. Like bearded dragons is a very common one. When, you know, people have basically been... They can survive being kept subpar. You've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
tough as can be.
Like in crazy conditions and still be alive. But, you know, going from that to then, like, let's say you set them up crazy basking lights and everything. Like, it's not even used to any of that. And I've seen them basically just die. Customers, it's me helping a customer take care of it correctly. And I use quotes on this. But really what that animal kind of should have did was go from its extremely chronically dry condition to, like, maybe somewhat halfway.
Yeah.
And then in another year or two or several months, do more add-on. Yeah, it's a.
I always say it should be about a 3 to 4 month process when I was doing the imports before they are ever put with another one of a different sex, before they are ever given too many, you might say, too many stimulations. I saw a lot with tree monitors. Like when I would bring in Persinis, they'd be real, kind of like the Ricolis, real thin, real, just not in good shape. You do not want to bounce those things back with rodents like the old adage used to be like, oh, get them fed up and ready. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Start them off on roaches, start them off on grasshoppers, little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, wow. There's a lot there to unpack if we wanted to do. See, we get on.
And I think Niles do that. Just say, sorry, I don't mean to
way to bring it back. Bring it back.
Well, yeah, this is one of those things where it's like we're talking about it again. And we're talking about really just how the hobby itself sees Nile monitors, you know. And so, you know, they're kind of, if you bought 100 of them or you buy that bag from Africa, they're like $5-10 each, you know, or quite cheap, right? And so, I mean, they deserve much more respect than that. And so really a lot of people just are like, hey, I can buy this for $25, you know, and let me just treat it miserably, kind of, right? Or they're unprepared to take care of it how they really take care of it. I've walked into homes before, not even people that I knew, and there are Nile monitors and fish tanks all over the world. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And they're just sitting on gravel, right?
Well, the very animal that started the Lucifer project, I always tell everyone, he was a rescue. Lucifer was a 10-year-old's pet he was just under 10 years old. It was like something like a birthday present they got him 2 years prior. He was over 5 feet long, and he weighed almost 50 pounds. He was so obese.
Yeah.
I had never – you should not be anywhere near that at 5 feet long. Yeah. To give you an idea, our breeder Coming Eye that just came from the vet, he was 18 pounds at 5 feet long. So, I mean, this animal was way heavier than he should have been. He died at almost 7 feet long and weighed less than when I got him.
That's incredible.
And
7 foot.
Yeah, he never should have been that heavy. That's one of the reasons that he got that big.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. We're going to – no, it's not you.
On Nile monitors. We're just a little tangent.
He's a Nile monitor, man.
For the listeners out there, me and Kai, going forward, we're going to try to stay very on topic, but to the best of our ability. I'll put that little.
This relates because it's kind of like his getting them acclimated to what they want to do as far as
right.
So it's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
So maybe for the newer people that are just going to listen to this episode to start off with, Rob, what. Will you share with us some of the history of like Nile monitors and what's a Nile monitor? What often gets called Nile monitors? Just a quick overview of what we're talking about.
So when I'm talking about Nile monitors, I am not talking about Ornatus. I am talking about Niloticus. So the biggest difference, the easiest way to separate the two, as far as if you're trying to make common names, you have a water monitor from Africa, which is Niloticus, and you have a forest monitor, Ornatus. Their structures are built that way for a reason. They have different tail shapes. They have different length of tails, different head shapes, different diets, all kinds of differences.
Yeah.
So for this, we're talking about Niloticus right now. Yeah. They can max out, I used to say 6 feet, but now I'll tell you they can max out well over 6 feet long. They are a very underappreciated monitor for their size.
Absolutely.
I always say people buy this monitor for $20 and you have just bought one of, if not the largest monitor in all of Africa, lengthwise.
Yeah. Yep.
And you have just put that thing in a fish tank when it's supposed to be a water monitor, mind you, which a fish tank is a dehydration machine unless you have done different alterations to the tops.
Yeah.
There is no way to trap that moisture that's rising. That's why people will hear me go on tangents all the time. I believe that is one of those things that was causing the issues with the female Niles that I was getting. I believe they were raised in these dehydration chambers basically their entire lives. They were lucky enough to survive the 3 years to get to maturity. And like we just said, they crashed, unfortunately, when the time came and the proper care was given.
Yeah.
Niles are kept way too heavy. Typically, we'll see that with a lot of monitor species. But they should have a nice thick side wrinkle on the side of their body. They should not have a almost like elongated abdomen there. It shouldn't look all bloated unless they're full of eggs. I mean, even my gravid female tricked me because after she laid her last clutch, I was on the phone with my buddy Jason. I was like, I don't know if she laid or if she just ate that chick and she looks a little like just underbloated or I don't know what's going on, and just decided to dig. And they were there. Her shape basically stays this real tight little, like it's a tight shape basically she has. It's the same with my best breeding Rudicola shape. They should look active. They shouldn't look like they're having a hard time moving. They shouldn't look like their back hips are having to move with their leg to move that section of the body.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost see that crawl. They shouldn't have to do that. Especially Niles. Niles should be fast. They're running away from crocodiles. They're running away from other predators when they're raiding their nest for eggs. These things are not slow animals. Anyone who's seen a fresh, wild-caught, like even juvenile Nile monitor that was healthy, they're crazy. They have so much speed, so much energy. They are cool. But they need to be respected. And they should have the space for that. So I treat them like a water monitor. Nice. Everyone always says, well, what should I do? Look up Asian water monitor care, and 90% of their year is very similar, actually. If you look up the temperatures in West Africa, the lowest their temps ever go in any of the ranges of Nile monitors in Western Africa, the lowest they ever go are 64 degrees for January, February, and part of March at nighttime. They're still getting well into the 80s during the day. That's the only big difference you're going to find between the Indonesian species and the African, you might say, water monitors.
Yeah. I love it because it's getting people to wrap their heads around. Because I had this conversation, probably with Kai and with a few other people about the two separate African species. There's more species of monitors, but the two that always get confused. And it's like comparing it to a water monitor is great. And then it's kind of like your African water monitor and your African lace monitor, in my opinion.
Yeah, your forest monitor, exactly. They are athletic, they are large, they are Ornatus. I always tell people there are 2 bites you don't want to take. You don't want to take a bite from a Salvadori or an Ornatus.
Or Dorianus.
You know what? I don't know if I'm not giving enough credit, but an 18-inch Ornatus gave me 3 stitches.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing was only yay big. You know, it wasn't that big of an animal. And it lunged. I had a mouse in my hand. I was jerking off like I shouldn't have been doing, just going like this with it. Thing lunged up, cleared at least 18 inches, like this whole body length, basically, and got my finger and just shook one good time, and I'm bleeding everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, these things have jaws. I mean, they crush snails. We'll get, sometimes there's different local guys who breed different apple snails or something like that.
Yeah.
They will crush their shells without even a thought, my Ornatus.
That's
and
incredible.
Niloticus, I can tell you can't do that.
Yeah.
They don't have half the jaw strength.
And do you see that side by side from your animals? You see it? The profile of the...
You put an Ornatus versus an Niloticus, it's almost like putting a Tegu versus an Asian water monitor.
Yeah.
Ornatus have these big jaws when they really come of age and they get to that 5 foot plus. Nile monitors, they have the oddest body structure when they get big.
Yeah, they have tiny little heads with huge bodies.
Little heads that are so unintimidating for their body size.
Yeah.
That Lucifer, the 7 foot Nile, he was 6'8". My 4 and 5 foot water monitors were eating food the same size as him because his head was just the same size as theirs.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's a female. No, he was a big boy.
You know, it's funny. I just did this with my my son. I would guess a few months ago, actually now. But we go back and forth. He loves to argue, not in a bad way, like disrespectful to his parents, but whether it's a football team, you know, or something, where he loves to debate stuff. So it came up with I'm old school. T-Rex is still the king of the dinos, right? But this new generation, whatever they're feeding them, they're all about these Spinosauruses and whatnot. So we're trying to get all technical, and we'll make them like here, you can look online, but you got to bring some facts to support your argument. and then I got to go and try to like disprove his argument. So we're talking about the jaw shape of the different dinos, and no, this one couldn't possibly, you know, and it's funny now we're talking about this. I'm gonna make him listen to this episode. So what everybody's saying, this is for my son only. Caleb is what these experts I have here are saying is that T-Rex will beat a Spinosaurus hands down. Okay, son, I'm sorry. That's just how it is. All right, we can continue. Yep. For that episode, because he believes if it's online and people are talking about it, we got to teach him. You know what's can't trust all your sources. But
do you know how many people I've been yelled at by who say that Nile monitors are not water monitors or nothing like Indonesian water monitors?
We're using it as a general term.
Oh my gosh! Oh, it's like what can't you take from a lizard that lives the majority of its life around water? That needs high humidity, that feeds predominantly on eggs, fish, you know, not a lot of rodents and different things like the forest monitors would. Yeah. I mean,
I get the same thing from the Indicus people or people that keep them. And then the way I speak, you know, it's kind of like, as I say Indicus, I kind of mean all of them, right? And then when I say, oh, a peach throat, it's just a mangrove monitor. It's just a different kind, you know, Dorianus or all these other ones are kind of just like, you know, they're just a mangrove monitor, just a different type. And so that's kind of like a general classification. Even if Niles aren't Salvatore, it's just they live in water. So, you know, they have a lateral compressed tail and all that other stuff.
And the locals literally call them water monitors.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, I'm going to go by the local common term on that one. I'm sorry.
Same thing with the Savannah white throat, black throat. They're a Savannah monitor. They're you know, and so they're a bulky headed Savannah type of grassland, wetland type of animal, and so it's a general term. Is how we say it. And then if you really want to get specific, then you say, you know, more along the lines of Latin names and things like that. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh, and for our listeners, if you want a good time, just go look up the actual size of the African continent. Like, look at an actual to scale map of the world and see how big Africa is. There's stuff we haven't even seen yet that we could probably, you know, I don't know when we will, but as far as probably other monitor species, or at least subspecies, because so much of this area is either untouched or just dangerous. There's not enough civilization there to even go. There's not roads to go cruise through some of these areas to see some of these things. So, yeah, I would love it if in our lifetime, we see some new things pop out of Africa, because when we think Africa, when we think monitor species, you think Nile monitors, like Kai said, Nile monitors and savanna monitors. And then the other stuff you might see are just subspecies of those, but those are where it's at. That's what you see. But there's got to be some other stuff out there. Who knows?
And I want to see the other localities. So
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen any photos. Congo, like the eastern Niloticus species around the Congo, look much more like Ornatus. That's kind of where the natural crosses might actually be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of debate about those, where you might be able to find out a lot more about this species if we just brought some of those in.
Yeah.
I have one right now. I think I sent this one to the group, didn't I, Kai? The one that I think is an ornate Nile. I think I might actually have a true mythical ornate Nile in my care.
Wow.
Right now.
Nice.
It was Chris Foley bought it and sent it over here on loan to do an Ornatus project. And let me tell you, if I sent you the 3 photos, one of a Nile, one of an ornate, and then one of this animal, is exactly what you would expect to get by breeding the 2.
Huh.
Yeah,
it has tongue color of Ornatus. It has the number of rows of ocelli of Ornatus, while having the pattern of Niloticus, like across the ocelli, little
awesome
ocelli.
For our listeners, I guess we could try to differentiate between how much rows and spots the Niles have compared to the ornate, and then the tongue color. You want to let them know, so that way they understand kind of what you're talking about. As far as
I'd have to double check the row count number for you.
I think it's 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6 exactly. It's 5 or 6, and I'd have to double check
in between the arms. So
from shoulder blade to tail base.
Yeah, in between the arms, and then
and it's pink tongue is Ornatus. Yeah, pink tongue is Ornatus. Blue tongue is Niloticus.
And then that's kind of crazy.
As they grow, it becomes more and more dramatic as they age.
Yeah. So even in the let's just stick to Niloticus. I mean, the amount of color. Well, see, it's hard with some pictures because they might be of something else. Because we're only seeing the pictures, stock photos or whatnot that you could look up. But the amount of color variation across those animals and what you'll see is, from the yellows, the blues, even into almost a completely gray looking animal. I mean, go ahead if you've looked into it much more than I have.
I have a little bit on this, just a little bit, thanks to the godfather of Niles, Rob Faust, gave me a little bit of information when I was picking his brain here around. And this project started in 2017, 2018, when I first brought Lucifer in. I got so curious about him. And apparently the really high yellow ones like Lucifer that had his specific pattern came from Senegal. Okay. And then the ones we call blue Niles now, the old rumor used to be that they were Southern Niloticus. They're not.
They're Egyptian?
They're not Egyptian. They're Tanzanian.
Wow.
Okay.
And then in Tanzania, you'll also see one. I posted a few pictures of them. We used to call them leopard phases. And these look like black and gray leopards. The only way I could put it. If you want to see them, I'll post some more pictures on Fox Reptiles Facebook. These things were wild when I had them. That's the only way I could. They were a different looking animal, but apparently come from the same area as these blue Niles do, according to Rob.
Oh, wow. So for the listeners, if you could imagine just the U.S., okay, if you go from the West Coast to the East Coast, let's say California to Florida, and you imagine all the different kind of king snakes we have. Something very similar could be at play across these different species that we're talking about now.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so you're going to see that type of variation. It's not like they're all going to stay the same. So at somewhere, you see high yellow and blue in an animal.
And that's the Tanzanian ones we're working with right now that I actually produce. They have a really yellow back with a super blue throat. And then the female looks almost green. She's like a perfect combo of yellow and blue. I would love to show her to people in person. She's an evil animal. You cannot grab her. She will hurt herself to get away from you. She is the stereotype. But with my breeders, a lot of the time, and I tell people this, I'm not buying a lot of these wild caught animals to be my pets.
Yeah,
they are genuinely here to breed, to live out their lives in the best care possible. I will handle the god out of their babies. That is the goal. To make captive bred ones that never go through those stresses, that never go through all the other stuff, that we can all play with. You said, I always joke about playing with them. That's the point of a pet. You know what? Everyone has a different definition of play. Some of it's tongue feeding. Some of us, we want an animal that climbs up our leg every time we come around. Some of them want, something completely different. For me, like I said, I'm usually a tongue feeder. As long as they fly around for tongue feeding, I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's so fun.
Yeah, it really is. That's why when I get it built, if I can do this for myself, when I build the shop that I want to in the backyard here, to remember that, it's nice to have stuff in the middle. I can put extra cages there, but leave a big enough space where I can just have fun and bring these animals out and just mess around with them. Because having to step over a box, having to step over this transitional cage. Yeah, you guys know. It's,
Oh, I've been there.
Don't kick over this.
I currently have that situation now where if I want to get down and do stuff, I have to move this box over here. And if I want to get the cages in front of those boxes, I got to slide that box to the other side. And then this box, I'm only working with a little room. So
this is why I can never keep venomous stuff. I don't have that discipline right now or that organization. Maybe once the kids are gone and in the future I could, but right now I would trip over something, be stuck in a corner, looking at some snake, looking at me like, oh man. But anyway, yeah.
I was speaking of cages.
You would have loved my old reptile room that got when the guy broke into it. He let out my 14-foot super tiger, super tiger retic. And this animal was great once she was turned off. And this guy on camera. We showed this around the Pittsburgh Reptile Show. I used to have the recording on my phone. Showed it around the Pittsburgh Reptile Show. This guy opens up her cage because I had just taken him in that day. And he reaches into her cage. She nails him.
Oh, good.
It's the blood everywhere. I came in, had no idea any of this occurred. There's blood on my floor. There's a snake on top of a 7-foot lizard cage.
Oh, man.
I'm like, this is not going to be fun. This is not going to be a good day.
I love to hear that he got his though, right?
He you know what? And he got arrested. All the fun stuff. That was in like 2016. Now it was a while ago.
Man, yeah, good stuff. Good stories like that. Yeah, good stories like that. Good. So okay, let's. I think Kai was just saying something about.
I guess because we're talking about cages. How do you keep your Niles now compared to a year ago or 2 years ago?
So before, I think I was keeping them seasonally drier than I'm doing now. I'm trying to keep more consistent on the humidity side of things and a little more on the elevation for them, actually. So my old cage was an 8x8x4, which is similar to what I'm using right now, but I didn't really have many elevated platforms. Like I said, I let it dry out randomly, trying to get this. I had this kind of theory about the seasonal dry seasons that didn't seem to come to pass for me too much. Then after I did some reading, it didn't seem like apparently there isn't much of a dry season there, actually. They call their cold time that 64-degree night, 80-degree day.
Okay.
I think it's just less rain.
It is, exactly. That's why I was comparing them to Indonesia. It's more of a rain cycle where they're still raining almost every day, but it's just less of it almost.
Yeah.
And so I've been keeping them much more moist, and then I'm actually going with a little bit less depth on the substrate. And like I said, I'm going higher as far as platforms, climbing areas. Their nest box is a little bit larger than the old one I used to run for my females. I usually
talk about that too. Just a mental note. Let's get back to that nest box, but go ahead.
So
there's like 4 mental notes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm counting on you. The old one I used to use was this trash can that was a little bit longer. It was like probably 4 foot tall, but it was only like 3 or 2 feet wide.
I love the simplicity. It's
I had built this. Well, I used this trash can. I built it into the floor of my old cage. My old 8x8 was elevated off the ground on stilts. So I had this heated thing, and that's where my original female had nested, but she laid on top. That's the only clutch I ever really got put out there was on top of that nest. that was your standard sand, topsoil, I don't know you call it nest, but at least at different dimensions.
Yeah.
So I decided to try more of an internal cage that I leave in more. I pull it in and out basically of there to avoid fights. But it's your standard 100-gallon black tote, basically.
Okay.
So it's longer instead of deeper. It's about 2.5 or something like that feet deep.
Yeah.
But it's about 4 or 5 feet long. What I think was the big difference with this cage is it's almost similar to my rudicolous. I have a lot more peat in this one than a sand soil mix. It's almost Mike Stefani always talks about his magic dirt pile that he goes to his stump. Uh-huh. It almost reminds me of that texture. The one clutch I was pulling, he goes, "That looks familiar." It's like, you're dang right it is, because you're the one who showed me some of this stuff. You know, I follow your videos. I follow John's videos. I follow all these videos trying to get ideas.
Yeah.
And there is a lot more species that I've noticed that I used to be all sandy soil. That was all my nests. Yeah. And I was getting random species where all my clutch would be on the ground or different odd places. And something as simple as basically making it a cocoa peat mix, all of a sudden these same animals are nesting properly. And I'm burying, I like to bury wood in my nest boxes. I always find my eggs under the buried wood.
Yeah.
I don't care what species it is, they all love it.
Yeah.
It's funny. So a lot of this, I don't know if it's the same out here, the peat mixture or whatever they're calling peat out here, but I started adding a lot of that, let's say a year and a half ago to nest boxes. And I like the way it made the soil feel mixed with cocoa, mixed with sand usually, and whatever I had laying around now. But for that very same reason, it seemed like it just worked better. And then also, for a lot of the dwarf monitors, I can't say so much for the sand monitors will dig under something usually to lay, but it's in the cage. But in the nest boxes with the dwarf monitors, I started just putting a piece of bark over the top, sticking in there halfway, things like that. So you're absolutely right. I've seen the similar things.
The Rudies were the same way, where I took the cork tube out. And she almost didn't seem like she knew where to lay. She laid at the bottom of her other cork tube where there was a pile of peat from her digging and leaving a pile of peat from the nest box. She laid that clutch over there, not this last clutch, but the clutch before. As soon as I put that cork tube back in, nested properly again this time.
Awesome.
I think there are certain things that monitors they're real basic, but they're needed, I think. And they add to that comfort level. Usually, like when my monitors, if say this female Nile gets over 5 feet, I like to go to 150-gallon ponds for nests at that size. The black ponds, bury a bunch of big logs, bury some cork. That's when things get a little more tricky because you can't really remove that as easily.
Yeah.
I try not to get to that stage too quickly. I try to almost push the bin as long as I can, but a couple of my females, I just had to go to the bigger pond style and kind of hope they don't kill the males when you're repairing.
Yeah.
Those nests could be trouble. That's a huge thing. Niles don't seem to have that problem. This female, she nest guarded before she laid. And then every time she lays now, I can put the male back, acts like she never happened. I pulled the eggs right in front of her both times. She didn't bother me at all. I can tell you right now, any of my Salvatore I do that in front of, they are at very least coming to inspect what I am doing.
Yeah.
A couple of my females will come up to you while you're digging and like start smacking you with their tail and hiss at you.
Oh, yeah.
they do not get happy with what you're doing, so you just have to remove them.
Yeah.
The Nile, she doesn't give a crap. She'll go bask, watch what you're doing. You pull the eggs. I leave the infertiles out for her in a food bowl, kept the fertile eggs, and basically that was the end of the day.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that interaction, are you seeing, well, is the male in the cage?
Not when she's laying. No, he will eat those eggs absolutely, because usually what happens is, we had this happen. It was kind of funny. The male broke out of the female's cage the first day I put him back this last time after breeding, and I just forgot to lock the one window, and he wiggled his way through the corner. I find him in her old nest, the one she just nested in like 2 weeks prior, digging a hole where those eggs had been pulled from.
Oh, he was on the hunt, huh?
Yeah, he was looking for eggs.
Yeah.
And I was joking. I'd seen it only one other time with Coming Eye. When I first got my pair of Coming Eye, the male broke into one of my nests. I laughed. I just threw his ass in the bin and put that whole bin in for the nest for his female afterwards, because it's from a different female's cage.
Gotcha.
He caught himself. He was trying to dig into those eggs. And he caught himself.
Good to know for anybody that in the future that wants to pick up this project. Remove the male.
Yeah. Well, the females, so far, 2 for 2, she's tried to kill him before.
Oh, yeah? Good.
Before laying, she gets
good
really,
that you take them out.
Well, I didn't know that either. I saw it on camera. Go to dinner with my family the one day. I'm looking at my Wise camera. I just happened to look because the kids went to the bathroom. So I looked at my cameras. I click on the Niles. I see her going full velociraptor at my male, like lunging across the cage at him. I'm like, oh, jeez, oh, man.
Gotta go.
We leave dinner. We get home.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry. We got to pack all the food. My lizards are going to kill each other right now. And my kids think that's completely normal at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Dad, are you going to be up digging eggs tonight? Yeah, for a little while. Oh, okay.
Well, I named like each of the males after my different animals, like my kids after the animals and all that. So they'll be like, did we have more babies? And they all have competitions of who has more babies now. It's
that's fun. Yeah, I like that.
Do you feel like the Niles? Oh, go ahead, Al.
Go ahead. No. You're on topic. So.
Oh, do you feel like the Niles and stuff like that breed as well as your water monitors have? I mean, you haven't hatched them just yet, but like, do you feel like they how predictable it gets when we've done it a few times? You know what I mean? Are they just as predictable, or has it been more of like for me? I don't really know what's happening sometimes until she's laying, because the miners they hide a lot.
Sometimes to be determined.
Yeah.
So she cycled 2 times now. This first time she laid 47 days ago now. And then she laid 45 days after that. I had paired the male too late because technically speaking, that means she cycled 1 week after laying last time. And then, finished her cycle day 15 after laying, somewhere around there. And the male was put in on day 18. That's why I only got 5 this time out of the 12 eggs. The pairing was actually too late. Yeah. Now, like I said, I don't know if it's going to be that consistent that fast. I'm wondering if it's seasonal, like where they'll drop like 3 fast clutches kind of thing.
Yeah. And
then maybe take a break. My Indonesian stuff takes no breaks. No matter what I do for them, as long as they're being kept properly, they don't slow down for me. So we're trying to kind of see if the Niles do that. I'm going to give them the opportunity to keep cycling, but I don't know yet if we're going to get even a 3rd cycle. I told everyone I was expecting 1 cycle, and then I'd have to wait a year. My original theory was they were a once-a-year breeder, basically.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. Happily so, mind you. Very wrong.
And I think like they say African monitors lay tons of eggs.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that's the case, because I could take 100 of these things. Bring it on.
So that compared to so like tree monitor stuff, maybe 3 to 5 eggs, something like that. My stuff basically 3 eggs, 6 eggs max, something like that. Most things are within the realm of a half a dozen, a dozen, and then maybe even really high, like as 20, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But dang, these things are like Savannah's, white throat, these things can spit out like 30, 40 eggs. And
that's insane.
It's insane.
Well, and that's what my first female Nile did, that bigger one that had the colitis issue the second time around. She dropped 35.
Wow. Oh. See, that's a lot. That's a lot of eggs, man.
Well, this female that dropped the 12 twice now in 47 days, she's only 44 inches long.
Yeah.
That's insane, too.
She's not a big female for a Nile. I honestly, when I had that pair together, I assumed the male was a little too young and the female. The male came in as a rescue. The gentleman that I got my one sulfur female on loan from at the time, he goes, part of the deal for the loan is you got to take this Nile in. It came in as a rescue. I wasn't going to bring any more Niles in after Lucifer passed. I was like, you know what? I failed. I was going to take my losses on that one, take it on the chin, and say I failed. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I want to do the sulfur project. I'll bring in that male Nile. He was like 38 inches long at the time. He's evil too, mind you. He reminds me of a small Lucifer, but skinny and healthy, actually.
Oh.
And so he was flying around for food. I'm like, I need to find a female. I'm going to try one more time. And that was this female. Like I said, I overpaid a little bit for a younger one because I didn't want – there was a couple of females at the time were like 5 feet long, 4 feet long that were a little older. I was like, you know what? I want to go younger this time. I want to be the one that gets them through those transition points as far as cycling, as far as making sure like when all those happen, basically they happen on my time, you might say.
Yeah.
What I believe is the appropriate times in my care. And that seems to be the biggest difference so far with this female. We have another grow up that I believe is female from Brian Waterloo, actually. She's only about 15 inches long or so. But we're hoping to kind of repeat that with her.
Nice.
Keeping her just like the Salvatore in the same style caging. Most of the year, that is 78 degree on the cool side. That is 90 degrees on the hot side with a 130 degree basking spot. I was telling Kai this. I don't believe in nighttime low drops with a lot of these species. I think one of the big reasons that we see so many Florida keepers almost seem like they get seasonal eggs, and then we believe those occur seasonally, is because their temperatures are only appropriate seasonally. You know what I mean? I think
I have a lot of theories on that stuff too. But
I think that there's a reason why the tree monitors and the Salvador do better in Florida than you might say the Salvatore breeding wise. Salvatore need a little warmer. That's one of the reasons I don't think Rudicolas are bred in Florida as much. I think Niles have a similar problem.
Right.
I think Florida actually gets too cold besides that one little patch. I can't remember where they're at. In South Florida, where they seem like they're thriving. I think it's Cape Coral, where they're thriving right now, apparently, is the story.
Yeah.
That is a small area that has one specific microclimate, basically, that's specialized for them. It just happens to not get too cold.
I'd love to go find them there, by the way.
Me too. They're high yellow, and they look like the Senegal ones, like Lucifer.
Right. Oh, my gosh.
I've heard that's a chore.
Is it?
They dive like the iguanas do, apparently.
I want to make the Florida trip. There's a few species I want to find from all over the world, and they're there. It is what it is at this point. Then I want to go see them, and it's a lot more cost effective than me flying to 3 different countries. So,
you know what? I'm on board. If you can give me a couple months heads up, I would go catch Niles.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe this next season. Would have me on board in a second. My wife would be like, "Have fun."
All right, Kai, you hear this? Kai's he's not answering. He's like,
I am not going all the way to your guys' side of the woods here.
I'm gonna need my inhaler. I definitely.
Yeah, I've noticed. If you guys can't see it right now, but Kai, it looks like he's borderline today. So you having some troubles over there, Kai?
No, man, I'm just listening. I was thinking in my head a trip to Florida with the guys. I don't know. I think I'd die there.
Well, I can tell you right now, I need an excuse to go see Justin Iguodala. So I can never pronounce his last name for my life. Man, I've known him for the better part of a decade now. Haven't visited him in like 2 years. I need to go visit him.
Oh man, I think we can make something out of this. So we'll talk about that some more. Okay, we'll talk about that some more. So there's there's a guy I want to meet if he's up for it. Kind of as a joint blue tree project over there. So love to go actually say hi. Few other things that I could do over there, but number one, let's go find some stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I want to catch some tokeys. I want to get a chameleon.
The chameleons too.
I've never found a chameleon there.
Yeah. No, see, I want to find the chameleon.
They have veils, panthers, and ostaletti, and I'd love to find them. I've always been I remember finding them in Hawaii. That was a pretty I was super stoked. I went to Hawaii for a vacation with a girlfriend. She lived there, though. She grew up there, but she was on the mainland. That's what they call the United States, like the other states. And so we basically went there, and I just went up this hill called Poly Highway or something like that. This local took me, right? And like you couldn't even, you have to park way down there and then walk up this thing. You couldn't even take your car anymore. Yeah, it was crazy, man. Finding chameleons in the wild, I know any lizards are like that, but finding a chameleon in the wild is pretty
awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
So wait, you're saying you could do that, but you can't do this Florida trip?
Florida's different, man.
I smell something.
There's gators there. You know what I mean? And I'm a little person.
Yeah, and I offered to bring Justin. He's the gator specialist.
Kai, for what it's worth, I'm allergic to gators too. So that's we can be allergic to.
Me and Justin will play with the gators. Okay, I'll leave it to me and Justin, and then you guys can just stay to the side for a second.
I saw this.
Yeah, someone's got
earlier Oh, sorry,
I got 6 kids at home. I got lots of reasons to risk it.
Yeah, I saw this girl wrestling a gator online this morning, right? And I was like, I don't think I can even do that. You know, maybe after a little while, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think I'm so used to city life that anything so big like that is so foreign to me still. Like, I mean, I've been keeping reptiles for years, but that's something I'm hesitant about because we don't deal with crocs and stuff like that here, you know?
Oh, man.
I want to go for years. I love them.
Yeah, so
I was more scared of grabbing in Sri Lanka, grabbing the water monitors than I was of if I had the chance to grab some of the crocodiles that were over there. I don't know why that was.
They're faster. That's why.
Yeah, they're faster, and those crocodiles weren't that big. I can
tell you right now, I've worked with plenty of crocodilians and plenty of Salvatore. I would much rather deal with the angry crocodilian.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about like a 15-foot animal. If you're talking about like a 10-foot and below, man, a Salvatore will get you just as bad and much faster.
Woo. All right.
One.
Yeah. Dude, I would love to find those. That's so much fun. And a Burmese. I'm going to go there. Let's go. Yeah, stiff my pocket. Check my pockets on the way out of Florida. Cause
that's why you drive in.
Right? I'll have tegus.
We'll have Kai like meet us halfway across the country, you know. He'll only fly in like halfway, and we'll figure out how we get him back to him.
Uh-huh. All different anole species, geckos, everything. My poor wife. All right. Let's get back on it. Talk about, Rob, so you were talking about your nighttime drops or not using nighttime drops, keeping consistent temps, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so usually when I'm turning stuff off at night, so my cages, anyone who's seen them, they're not the most intricate setups, but I like to, Brad Salzwell used to say, make them a playground. You know, give them all the opportunities to go up high, go low. You don't want them falling off and hurting themselves. You know, kind of that mindset. And I think a lot of the times people don't realize how much you can black out the bottom when you do that. Because with those platforms and all that, you can make areas that are so dark you can't see anything from the outside of there.
Yeah.
I mean, I will lose monitors in these cages, and I will have to open them up and dig around to find animals in their cage.
Yeah.
They're finding plenty of places to go and go to bed, you might say, and get their proper night cycle. But I believe temperature is the most important thing when it's doing the monitor stuff. Consistency and temperature. And I talk about this a lot with Salvatore and Indonesian species, and that's what the mindset I've taken to Niloticus.
Uh-huh.
I think outside of the seasonal stuff, I think a lot of it is opportunistic breeding.
Yeah.
I find an area that has the resources I need. Basically, now my cycle has started. That's why feeding seems to be one of the bigger triggers, those in barometric pressure changes. But a lot of mine's food cycling, where they'll kind of glide, real light food. And then if people think up food, I'm only talking about upping like a chick or two with a lot more calcium and vitamins usually mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
And something about that combination with the consistency and temperatures, a little bit of spray down, pick the right storm. It's real. A lot of them seem to consistently go with that breeding wise. That's worked with Rudicolis, Salvatore, Niles. I mean, I'm trying to do with that Onatus cross here next year. I'm hoping does the same thing, or whatever it is, pure Onatus, whatever the heck that animal is.
Yeah.
I'm hoping a lot of this is across the board. And I think we've made things in our attempts to, you might say, make care better. I think we've overthought it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. I think especially for captivity.
Everyone's so hung up on one of my old buddies who used to help me out before we had a little falling out, used to build some of the most beautiful visual cages you would ever see. They had the waterfalls, they had the logs, they had everything. But then when I went and took my temp gun to his cage, some of the corners were in the 50s because you're building into your walls in your basement here in Ohio, and the winter changes everything.
Yeah.
Summertime, that corner might be 70 degrees. But in the winter, all of a sudden, that wall was 50-something degrees. And I believe that was much more detrimental than it was beneficial to have all the other stuff because he didn't notice those corners. He didn't notice. He was overdoing it and missing. Everyone talks about you missed the forest for the trees or whatever the saying is. You're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Right.
In care.
Yeah, I
think that's our biggest mistake. I think we need to get back to consistency.
Right. I see people go for these great looking cages that
Pretty
are bioactive. This is, yeah. And so, but the animal will run from one end of the cage to the other, but what they're actually using is a 2-foot square in the middle of an 8-foot cage, say for a dwarf monitor, or even some of the larger monitors. They're using 2 square feet for what they actually need in life. And they'll say, oh, they use every inch of it. No, you see them running all over it. Yes, that's great, but you could make that usable. Take out half that stuff that you think looks pretty, and it does, but it's not usable. And, you see animals sometimes get sick, or they go down in some of these cold corners. They never come back up. Different.
Ron St. Pierre said it best, I think, when it came to that. So everyone always argues, well, why would they use them if, they didn't like them? Ron St. Pierre said they're evolutionarily not designed to come in contact with these kind of temperatures. They're finding a dark corner that just happens to usually be the coldest part of your cage, because it's usually the most under cared for, whatever. And that's why they're there for so long. They're cooling off, getting sick, dying, whatever. I think that affects cycles more than almost anything. Like I said, inconsistencies in temperature. Rudicola seem like as soon as they have that one cold day, they're done. You won't get another cycle for 90 days.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's just some species where it turns them on. I think some just turn them off as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
I focus on those little, like I said, I always talk about the microclimates. Most people don't realize, like, I love Kai's elevated hide box idea. He introduced me to it for the first time probably a year or two ago, and I started using these screwdriver boxes, these old boxes I have that I screwed in my baby cages. Well, the problem I was having was I didn't realize why they weren't being used. They were damn near 100 degrees all the time.
Oh, okay.
Because of where I had them aligned in the cage.
Yeah.
So I temp gunned it. I moved it along to the other side a little farther, much farther away from like the light and all that. And the temperature's close to like 80, and now the babies are in there almost exclusively sometimes.
Nice.
And I don't think we pay attention to those details. We're so fixated on, okay, the basking is 120 to 140. Okay, I need this much depth on my soil. I want all these big decorations so they have all these hides.
What I think is,
I think we lose it.
People, don't get me wrong, the prettiness effect, and if we can mesh really functional cages with pretty cages, then that's awesome. We're not knocking the look, but when you go and you compare something that, sure, it has a rock wall background type deal that's faux rock, sure, it's amazing, it's pretty, and or you have tons of plants, all this crazy decor on the walls, right? But man, if your soil depth and consistency of soil, temperature of soil is missed, and you have all that other stuff, though, your cage is incomplete. Your cage is missing something, and that's the one thing. You can have a crazy waterfall and an awesome pond with the crazy filtration system, but if you're missing a nesting option or a nesting soil or that, and it's not just throwing dirt down there, that's a foot deep,
right?
You have to heat it. You have to do stuff that basically you got to tend to that every month. It's a labor of love, but I turn my soil like every
nest boxes.
Oh, yeah. You have to go down there, and I actually right now I have my cuticles. I mean that under part right here, like all pushed in.
Yeah,
dirt.
yeah, we got the same.
I was gonna say those are monitor nails, dude. That means you got success.
I hope
we have a 300 gallon. So we have a 300 gallon bin that has the majority of, like, I have one per species basically, where we dump a lot of our excess nesting materials when we're pulling the nests, and we'll turn them all together as one basically rotation before we're getting ready to do the whole room again, basically.
Oh man, how are you? You got to describe this to me, because I'm going to be moving. I'm already moving way too much dirt, but
the way I do it, most doctors would say don't do that. I am taking a shovel. I am shoveling it out into a 300 gallon pond that's behind me in the middle of my room, or into a separate bin to take to that pond. Filling that up, putting it into the 300 gallon pond, because this isn't bad dirt. This isn't pooped in. This isn't, it doesn't have all the bad, you might say the bad stuff in it. You don't have to make it sanitized or anything. The biggest issue is, though, if you don't turn it consistently, then it gets those dry pockets that are almost impossible to like rehydrate. It seems like sometimes where it becomes that real peppery texture. That's because you didn't turn it once a week. As bad as it sounds, you needed fresh water in there. You needed a little bit more temperature. Sometimes we'll heat the pond itself so that it evaporates some of the excess moisture.
Right.
And basically return it, re-moist it. You know, I don't like to – I always say don't fix what's not broken. Man, with some of these nest boxes, some of the work I've had to put into figuring out like the Rudicolas ones and Niles too, it seems like, would have been just as bad if I hadn't already done it with the Cocoa Peat. I mean, sometimes you just want to have that stuff on hand. I'm getting ready to make my own mixes. I always tell people I'm going to make my own darn mixes with this peat.
Yeah. I have a drum. I have a drum outside my place. I typically throw leaf litter in there and the soil already. Like the soil, eco earth, peat, and sand all together. Like when you just throw it together, you can definitely see the different particles, right? But after a couple months of that and water and turning it, it just then all becomes like this one. It's called sandy loam or something like that. It's basically like sandy soil all together blended, but it's been conditioning though. Yeah, I love that stuff. And
I'm trying to replicate that stump that I talked about with Mike Stefani.
Yeah,
I will put wood in this container in my nest boxes that are sitting outside of the cages. You are trying to keep this stuff as consistent as you can.
Yeah,
and I've noticed the more I use it, as funny as it sounds, the more success I'm having with some of the nesting. And I don't know if the females, because they have to be able to smell the other females that I use them with sometimes.
Yeah,
but there has to be some kind of familiarity because man, they lay almost in the exact same spots, almost the exact. I mean, this Nile female, the exact same spot 2 times in a row, you know, and with the exact same bin, just slightly different soil. Maybe had some rooty smell in it or something because I use the cocoa peat for them as well. You know, but I noticed that sometimes with those mixes, if I put them like 2 days before laying, like so a little too late, you will almost scare the female away from that nest for a day or two.
Oh man, I've changed or turned nest boxes at the wrong time. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I was thinking the day before this last Nile clutch because I swore she'd already dropped it. That's what I misread her bad.
Yeah. It sucks. I was like, okay. Like I was telling Lynn the other day, I was like, you know, I had you move that cage so I can go dig, and there wasn't even any eggs.
There wasn't nothing there.
Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, at least you didn't Chris Folier. He dropped that nest on their arm. Man, that was rough. He paid for those eggs in blood.
Yeah.
Or she did at least.
She did.
You know what?
She's Lady Jade. The backstory to this is
worth her weight in gold.
I was like messaging Chris, and he's like, we're at the emergency room because the nest bin landed on her arm, and it basically broke the forearm part.
I remember all that. Oh.
But they got 3 baby croc monitors out of that, so she definitely paid with her body. So yeah.
You know what? I would probably give an arm to have had that success. I can't lie. I might have given a broken bone for that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well,
or at least my mental health.
I'm that dumb. I'm sorry. I am that dumb. I would do it.
I've definitely given it up.
I feel like I had to have done worse in my lifetime. I'm trying to think of something.
Right.
What have you done to get success in this world at this point?
You talk about like those big totes and stuff or those ponds. I've actually considered for the way to change dirt if I'm going to decide on using like large nest boxes or almost like a cage inside of a cage type of deal.
Yeah, that's right.
How to get to that, how to access that, and actually putting just a reinforced like hook or eye bolt at the end of one thing or 2 of them, and buying a winch like you throw on the front of a ATV or something. So I have a wall on one side and that winch somehow where I can hook into that eye bolt and pull them down almost onto like a I don't know if it's going to be a slide or a rack or something on wheels that I can move that out with.
Nick Lillis, you might want to talk to.
Yeah.
He has some kind of sliding system on his nest boxes, if I'm not mistaken, where he can like pull them out like a drawer. My entire reptile room was built in 2 months when we moved here. Like I had to get it ready with all those alterations I talked about. I am still adding framing to some of those cages.
Down and dirty.
I am not the sliders yet.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Nothing slowed down this year. Everything went like, oh, we have these brand new cages. Perfect timing.
Yeah. I was just starting to get into certain rhythms at the warehouse. And I even started I think I took 1 or 2 live videos that I was sharing with people. Like, this is what I'm going to do now. This is where this is gone. And then over a month, things changed. It was like, well, all that's changing. Move everything home, downsize it, rig things together. And then it's going to have to change again. So, man, I get it.
My room's a mess, all thanks to a baby Celebensis. It's okay. I understand. It got behind my anaconda cages, my stack of anaconda cages.
Uh-huh.
So I had to move every one of those cages, and I was like, I am not putting all these things back because these are the only section that's not on casters right now. Everything else I can move. You know what? I am changing that entire room so that can't happen twice.
Yeah.
A little 8-inch Celebensis behind anaconda cages. That is
change your world.
Smashing. You're worried about everything.
Yep.
And of course, it's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my favorite one of the clutch.
Oh man. I will say right now, everything's on wheels, but I'm still surprised where things can hide and where things can fit. But
I agree. We're 90% there.
Yeah. All right. Tangents, man. But we were talking nest boxes and we were talking nesting and whatnot. So let me ask this real quick. For what temperatures are you looking for across your cage? For the Niles specifically.
So for the Nile specifically, right now we are mimicking the Salvatore temperature outside. Right now we're in their hot time.
Okay.
That goes through December, and like I said, in January it starts to cool back off at nighttime. So right now they are 78 degrees on the cool side. They are 90 degrees on the hot side. They have a 130-degree basking area. When we are going right now, so that's 24/7, 7 days a week. That is all day, every day. Once January comes, we rip out the one light. It's a UV style mercury vapor bulb. We pull that out of one side of the cage, so it almost blacks out half the cage, give or take. Mm-hmm. And that will allow that room is about 68 degrees. So that will allow, we won't get to 64 probably, but we'll go down all the way to 68 on that side. And that will be kind of the big alteration. Like I said, I don't change my lighting too much. I have seen issues with gout from temperature issues. I have seen issues with cycles because people got too cold at night. I have seen respiratory issues because you didn't count on your nighttime temperature in that room getting so cold. I mean, consistency is something I preach to all people.
Yeah.
And the Niles, like I said, I'm shooting for right around the sweet spot is about 7 months out of the year, between 74 and 78 on the cool side, with 90 on the hot side. And then when I rip out that one light, like I said, it'll put the one side of the cage in the mid-60s, and then we'll still have that 130 basking area. And by pulling that light out, it also gets rid of some of the ambient in the room, so it won't be about 90. It'll be closer to like mid-80s, low 80s. So I'll be getting that temperature to kind of match what I see online when I check out their weather apps.
I like it.
I match their rain. I soak the crap out of my floors in my basement. My wife is a saint for dealing with it. Because, man, half the time I am so happy. I'm so glad they were unfinished floors because I have drains in them. I'll just spray through the cages, and I have to seal some of these cages still because, like I said, I threw them together. So that lets me drain. The cages drain very quickly that way, though, too. So it does allow me to constantly cycle water through the cages, and I think that has benefited, like I said, the Nile Monitors, the Salvatore, the species that need that high humidity.
Man, so
we had to pull the Uromastics out of that room because it was too high of humidity on that floor. Basically.
I could imagine that. You know, it's some of the issue I have is most of the stuff I keep is Australian, and so I run into opposite problems. Usually, I haven't been too successful with, I would say, your subtropical or tropical species or Indonesian species. That's where I run into some issues, and I have to pay special attention to those rather than the other way around. But man, if it needs, drastic temperature changes and dry seasons, I got you covered.
Ohio allows I throw my Heloderma right in the garage, put the garage at 55, and I'm done. I don't have to do it. I don't have to do a thing more. It's not going to go over 30 for the next 3 months at that point.
Yeah. The Australian species, that man, not all of them even, but a lot of them, they're very tolerable of what I can provide out here. So it's worked in my favor. But I get jealous of you guys that are showing these kind of, success with Kai with the coli and you with what you're doing. It's like, wow, one day when I grow up, I'm going to be able to have 2 different zones for this or that and try to make it all happen.
Everyone just move to Ohio.
Yeah.
You know how cheap it is to live here?
No, but I'm paying attention now because California is way too expensive.
Yeah,
my wife's from California. My wife's from Monterey Bay, and she can tell you the difference. Man. Her apartment costed what my house does.
Yeah. Like, well, when you talk about it, Monterey Bay, though, when you go there, it's a gorgeous place, bro. Gorgeous.
It is.
Well, she was right outside in Salinas there, so she wasn't even getting the prettiest part, but she was paying the expense.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, I couldn't believe when she said her studio apartment cost the same as my home. I was like, I have property too, that's ridiculous.
We were looking at a place in Missouri, and I was like, oh damn! As long as they got a Whole Foods, I'm there, man.
It's not I can tell you right now, 200 grand can get you 2 acres and 2,000 square feet here.
Woo!
And that's
that includes a basement. That includes a basement for your toys.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So the money.
That's what I rely on. I love basements because they're half the square footage of your home, usually, or give or take. And I have a huge open basement. Yeah, that's my reptile room.
Don't tempt me. See, I can retire in 8.5 years, and then the whole world is going to become open. We're going to definitely look into cost of living because my paychecks or my retirement check's going to be the same. So we're going to see how that stretches. And a good example of that, talking to Dan Mallory over there in Thailand, it's like,
I
don't know if I'm going to leave the U.S., especially with the new baby, but the cost of living stretches quite a bit once you leave these borders over here. So
no doubt about it. I said, you know what? That's one reason I always liked Ohio. It helps me a lot. Everyone's like, oh, you have all these lizards and you have all these kids. You obviously have to make a ton. I guarantee you, most of those people out make more than me. I just have a low cost of living and manage it well. You might say.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in an area it's still building. I love it. It's twice the place it was when I moved here.
Yeah. No, that's actually really awesome. So, what's the other place with?
And Ohio's barometric pressure changes. All these stupid storms. I think they do wonders for the breeding.
Oh, nice.
I do. Like I said, I believe that those times where you don't expect a cycle, where we talk about the food cycling doesn't occur, still cycle for some reason. I think it's because of all the storms here. I don't think I've done anything special at that point besides the consistent temperatures.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I like that. That's something to think about too. Now you got my mind wandering. Okay, but back to Niles. Yeah. So those are your temperature spreads, and you said you've upped the humidity, or you're no longer given a dry season.
Yeah, I'm not giving a traditional dry season now. Dry is now relative to how wet I keep them, basically.
Okay.
So now so when their dry season comes, right now they get sprayed down probably 4 times a week.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go for the dry season 2 times a week. But that means that's a flooding. That is, I'm soaking their cage down. That can leave a layer of water. Yeah. I mean, it takes time to dry that out. That's why I said I like kind of having the floor drains that I have. Just kind of goes right down the floor drains.
Nice. Yeah. I like that.
It makes it a lot more convenient to try the rain cycles, because I noticed that with the Celebensis too. That's like, I always talk about species where you try to use something you learned here to kind of help you here. And I've noticed with between the cocoa peat and the humidity, I really don't think that Niles were as complicated as maybe we first thought, because there's a lot of people trying them. It's not lack of trying in captivity. We have everyone claims they have a Nile project. Every Nile keeper that buys one says they have a Nile project. Right. But for some reason, they don't make it to 5. And I think it's that reputation I talk about where they're kept too dry. They're African monitors, so it's obviously a dry desert the stereotypical idea of Africa. There's no way in heck that they are in rainforest areas in their own little microclimate because it's such a large area.
Yeah.
And I think it was a matter of just getting those consistencies.
I think, I would go off a tangent again, and I'll try to stay on top. So with the Niles, also you had mentioned because of head size, we were talking about what are you feeding your adults? Like,
so
what are the common food items?
Fish and chicks, 99% of the time. They get an occasional rodent right after laying. The females do. My male has never had a rodent in my care.
Okay.
I do. So during the summer and winter, I catch a lot of like perch, crappie, bluegill, basically local fish. And I have 6 kids who love to catch them too and just pile them up.
Yeah.
So those will make up about seasonally anywhere between 20 and 60% of their diet. And then the rest usually is either quail or chicks.
Nice.
And then if they're babies, we'll give them obviously roaches and the like that. Different bug variety. Kaifons, grasshoppers, all the best stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All the goods. No, I like that. I got to up my my chicks again because I'm run out now. But I was buying from a guy here, and I will continue to buy from a guy here. And I noticed, they actually did really good for me.
I like Cold Blooded Cafe because they have me on an auto order and they've never been late. You know what? I get 1,000 chicks a month from them.
Okay,
quite literally 500 every 2 weeks, and they haven't missed a beat. They said if I want to alter my order a little bit, it's no big deal. They invoice me. They don't beat the crap out of you about it. I mean, I've had a really good experience with them so far. I changed over from Rodent Pro probably about 6 months ago.
Okay.
I hated getting
better quality.
I hated getting broken feeders from Rodent Pro. That's what.
Yes, I was gonna say I was getting bags with chicks that were like broken open that had like the baby guts all over the other chicks,
or like like when the Pinkies and Fuzzies, they were frozen just either so cold or so long that they're brittle or they just snap in half. Yeah, that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, I've seen similar things as well, and I will say I've ordered from both, and I would say that the consistency, not only they looked better, but the consistency on sizes too, was better with Cold Blooded. So you hear that, Chris? Yeah,
he got his shout out.
We're trying to get him on now. He's so busy, so we're trying to get him on.
Yeah, I can't complain right now. He's got a few fox reptiles, het sulfurs, and a few other things over there. They're doing me some good favors as well. So him and the whole company is just a stand-up company.
Yeah, good stuff. I like having Chris on. He's funny. So sticking to Niles, I'm trying so hard. I told Kai, like, I might have to. Eric Burke even told me at the beginning. He's like, you might want to write like an outline for the shows. And I tried it a couple times, and then it just went out the window after the first couple times I tried it. But I might go back to that just to keep myself on track. Because, man, when it comes to all these little thoughts that I've had over the years, like they'll fire off like, oh yeah, this, oh yeah, that. And that's just me. There's you two guys too. I know it's the same thing.
Yeah. My problem is I want to know what's going on with everyone else's collections. I'm like, I'm playing in mine. I know what's going on in mine. I want to see all the other stuff that I'm not working with. I just don't have the opportunity or the bandwidth to do right now.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we can all learn from each other. So that's really good. That's what we're here for.
What are you cooking those eggs at right now?
84, or I'm cooking the first set at 85, the second set at 84.
Okay.
I don't believe there's going to be much difference, but we lost a couple to molding right away in the sim of the first clutch. So 9 of 12 look like they're going to make it. They all have veins. The 9 have veins. And then the 5 that we pulled the other day were actually running. So I did a big test with Hatch-Rite. And I had a 100% hatch rate twice now in a row.
That's right. The little pebbles, right?
Yeah, Hatch-Rite just comes in a bag. You don't dump any water in it, nothing. You just put it in the container, and I pre-warm them a couple days before the females lay. And instead of doing the 1 inch that like the bag says, I go 2 to 2.5 inches of Hatch-Rite, and that will last you with no added water. I didn't have to add water once of my monitor clutches so far. That's what I'm cooking my Rudies on again this time. It's my only Rudy clutch that made it the whole way was on Hatch Right.
Nice.
Wait, what were you saying about turfus?
That's what it's called, right? It's called turfus rocks, the little pebbles, those little red. He's talking about.
I'm pretty sure they call it. I'm pretty sure they call it. I think they say it's like perlite and water crystals, technically for Hatch Right.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think the other one is the Pangea hatch is the turfus.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm using a lot of.
Do not, if you're buying the Hatch Right, do not buy the monster bag they sell. So the bottom gets a lot more moist than the top, but the water crystals drop to the bottom. And so I was having some humidity issues with that. So I started. What I do is I buy 33 at a time, 33 bags, separate bags at a time. It's how they max out their one box worth basically. And I always tell people, it's $11 a bag, but I guarantee you every single clutch you're cooking is more than $11. I don't care what species you're in. I don't care if it's tokay. I don't know if they were tokay geckos from a decade ago at $5. You're still making money on that.
That's a good point.
You got to put the money towards it. And sometimes we have $20,000 in reptiles sometimes in those little bins.
Yeah.
Those little bags are consistent. I haven't had a single – I have, like I said, the Niles on it now. I have all my Rudicolas on Hatch right now. And I am addicted to – it sounds funny – the sim containers with Hatch in them. I love the sim containers themselves, especially the small sims for Rudicolas and Niloticus. Salvatore tend to have too big of clutches, so I like to go the XLs for those with the water crystals. But in the smaller sims, man, I adore Hatch Right.
Nice.
I've had no humidity issues. Like I said, this next clutch of het sulfurs, I have 24 we went. It looks like.
Wow.
Very nice.
I mean, I love that. And that's what I'm running the Niles on now at 80. Like I said, the new one at 84 degrees.
Are you adding any additional ventilation or holes? You're just running the tops as is?
Yes,
and
sir.
No issues with eggs popping or anything like that?
No, I've heard those rumors before, but I vent all my eggs every 2 weeks, regardless of moisture content on the lid.
Okay.
It becomes a task with 300 eggs, but it is. You know what? And it's wipe the top off some of them. My shirt will be soaked by the end of it with water from lids. You would swear I got sprayed.
Yeah.
And, by the time I'm done in that room, you're like, what the heck did you do?
We can all experience when you lift the top or you lift it off and then all the water trickles to
all the water.
Yep.
So I do that once every 2 weeks because I've had too many eggs, at least early on with my old incubators, dry out.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe with the new one, I wouldn't have the same issue. But so far, I'm having such a low issue with hatching that I'm not going to play around with it right now.
Right.
The last two sets of Rudicolas eggs, like I said, are looking fantastic, and the ones due to hatch in January. The Nile Monitor eggs, all the ones that are cooking right now are doing fantastic in the new incubators. Basically, all the sensitive eggs I had got a lot less sensitive with the proper equipment.
Nice. Yeah. So
it's kind of magical.
I ask about this because what you're using, whatnot, because most of the stuff I have, there's just no problem with. The fact that I have issues still with the Kimberly rock monitors from time to time, the eggs, and I think it has something to do with seasons or where the incubator's at and different changes I've made. But I feel like if those other things will hatch in all kinds of situations, if I can just keep them more near what the Kims need, those things are still going to hatch. And I'll get better hatch rates with the Kims. So I won't mind trying those bags that you're talking about. Yeah,
I say, will you do me a favor and try the hatch right, but don't go 2 inches, okay? For the Aussie stuff, go 1.5 inches for me. A little bit less moisture in that. And make sure you're ventilating near the end, especially. So the last month, make sure you're opening that container every couple days.
So what I was doing... what I was doing, I was actually switching tops. So I have... Or I had tops that had masking tape over the holes, and then I would open up towards the end at a certain rate, open up a hole or whatnot, letting them dry out that way. But I hear what you're saying; it's kind of the same idea. But
I'm a control freak, so I like to always be the one touching, I'd say, and doing the action. And I noticed that time out of the incubator really matters for humidity fluctuations in the containers.
Mm-hmm.
You really, and I think it was Cody, I want to say, who said it. He likes to keep his bins out of the incubator for no longer than a minute. I might be misquoting him, but I believe it was him who said the 1 minute thing, and I like to follow that rule as well. I don't like to have an incubation container, especially one that's like halfway there, out of my incubator for basically longer than you need it to be.
Yeah.
That thing wiped down. Don't stare at them. Don't poke them too much. Make sure there's no moisture on them and get them back in the incubator. That little bit of time can change the temperature a degree or two, which most people don't realize. Everyone always says, and I had to learn this the hard way many times. They say temperature fluctuations killed my eggs. No, odds are a temperature fluctuation caused your humidity to either spike or drop. Usually spike is what kills them.
Yeah.
And then they molded over and died. I had that happen to an entire rudicolous clutch when our seasons were changing here. You were talking about around April.
Yeah.
I didn't start venting it every couple of days. I was still doing my once every 2 weeks. And I had a couple of sets of eggs that all went bad. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is just the Rudies and only one other egg go bad? And as soon as I started doing this venting thing, I stopped having any of these issues every couple of days with it. And I really do think that it's a matter of minutes, as funny as it sounds. It's that 1 minute didn't fluctuate the temperatures too much. It made sure all the fresh air got in, so there wasn't a big humidity spike. You're adjusting then for that outside temperature that it changed in the room. You know, you're basically re-upping it, you might say. You're refreshing a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you notice that one day you have a really big temperature change in your area, like say it goes from 80 to one day like 50 the next, go vent your eggs.
Yeah.
I do it every time I have a major change like that.
I was going to when I think I even put it on one of the live videos right before I decided to leave the warehouse setup. I was going to make I have a middle cage in these walk-in cages. I was just going to make it an incubator, so it could actually close the door behind me, and then go into tubs on like those little, the gardening or baker racks, those little metal racks, and set things on there, so I could be inside. So I can control the humidity better. But I think in the new setup, I have great incubators right now, but for similar reasons, when I get down the road, actually having another incubation room, maybe even like I get nerded out on some of this stuff, but like a double door type of thing just to control that humidity fluctuation, even opening the door, so I could keep that completely.
And that was my
consistent.
big issue with the huge incubators. So I helped Jason actually make this incubator, design it from Custom Glass Terrariums. Originally, it didn't have enough heat tape on the inside, enough of the heating element in there. And so it was struggling to get back to 84 every time you open this giant incubator. You know, I said it's 5 feet tall. This is a big thing to have air.
So when it loses, to gain back is a little tough, huh?
Yeah, and when your heat tape is fighting it, that's causing those humidity spikes because the temperature's spiking underneath your incubation containers.
Yeah,
that's causing humidity to rise.
Yeah.
So what we did was we went with, instead of having, I think it was like 6 feet or something like that, we went with 10 or 12 feet of heat tape. It goes all the way around the bottom and all the way to the tops.
Okay.
So it's top both sides. So it's even distribution basically on every level besides the very bottom rack, which only has a fluctuation of 1.5 degrees. It's 85.5. That's where my Nile eggs are on the one set. I have them at the 85.5 spot, and the rest of the incubator is right at 84 to 84.8.
Very nice.
And that's where the rest of my eggs are, basically, at that point.
Okay. Yeah, I love nerding out on these things. And I think I've talked with Kai before.
A good topic. Very good topic. That right there, the incubating and making it work for your conditions, right? Whatever, the home, the room, the weather outside, the pressure, how much moisture is in there, how heat's distributed in there. Yeah, it's not, like people think it's just a plug-in, people think it's just a plug-in.
No.
A little water dish at the bottom, you put the eggs in and it's done. It's
right.
It's a little bit more than that. So
that was the most damning thing for me, I think. My first ever clutch was Sumbawa Biz we talked about.
Yeah.
I had 100% hatch rate my first try and basically a chicken incubator. Yeah. I swore I knew it. All.
Yeah.
Man, I was going to do everything that exact way, and it was always going to work, and I was so wrong.
And that's how, I mean, honest to God, that's how all of us have started in the game, right? It's just a little hoverbaiter, man. I remember had to bring
a little styrofoam hoverbaiter, and you twist it for temperature, and you have to watch the thermometer on the inside.
Man,
that's what I hatched the world's first Sumbawa Bibs in.
As a kid, I was reptiles out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I said I hatched hundreds of beardies when I was 16 out of those things.
Yeah, beardies, geckos, corns, kings. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The bread and butter.
See, when I hatched like some of my first Ackies, and I was like, oh, I'm nailing this. And then the Tristas popped out. Oh, I got this. The Kimberly's 100% hatch rate for the first clutch. Oh, this is awesome. And then I started changing some things around, doing this or that. And I actually let a buddy borrow that incubator. Man, it was way too small for what I'm doing now, but man, I wish I had that incubator back. That would be the Kimberly incubator.
That thing must have been much tighter than you gave it credit for.
You know, it was nice. I had some dilemma too with the current one where I had just a homemade incubator, right? Just a fridge, a little mini pool or whatever, right? And once I had to change that because the front panel of the glass cracked. So I was like, all right, you know, but then I ended up getting this thing because I was like, all right, maybe, you know, it was like Pomona or Anaheim, one of those shows, and these guys were there. And I was like, man, this is an awesome incubator. It would probably, that's what I thought. It would make my life easier. But that's actually the opposite. It's completely
you know, we're figuring out.
It's the insulation that's in the wine cooler or whatever. It's obviously, right, it's meant to keep things cold, right? So it's not going to be allowed to change temperatures too much. But I think the thin walls of this incubator, even if it's doubled, it's not enough. Yeah, it's not enough. So.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll hit on that real quick. We don't see this a lot, guys, for like snakes that might hatch out in 60 days or less. Yeah. But PVC, it's not that great of a material for certain things. Okay. Yes, you can make incubators out of it. Yes, you could do things to make it a lot better. But like Kai was saying, it doesn't beat, you know, a straight inch of insulation or more in between, you know, other, even PVC. Again, if you sandwich an inch insulation between two PVC panels, then you're in a much better situation. Or another type of plastic, or wood that's finished, or so many different options.
Rob Faust has a wooden incubator. It's awesome, and I never thought about that. You know,
he can. Yeah. That man though, don't model after him. He can build anything way better than we can.
Yeah.
That man can build us circles around us, dude.
This wooden incubator looked like my thing. I was like, I'd rather have the wooden incubator.
I got my incubators. They're built wood on the outside, and then they have like, I think it's 1.5 inches. It might even be 2 inches of insulation, and then finished on the inside, and basically FRP with the fans put in there. I didn't build them. I got in a very lucky situation where a buddy of mine, so I'll do it without name dropping, but hatches a lot of snakes, and he needed a certain Corvette part that was near me, and I just happened to walk myself into an awesome situation where he was building a incubation room as well, so he didn't need these two things anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so it really helped. They're about, I think they're 4 foot by 3 foot by 2 foot deep or something, so there's two of them. So I really lucked out, but I've gotten to see how different incubators, different locations, temperature spikes, all that can really play a difference on your hatch rates of certain things, and the different species too. It's amazing. Yeah. Some species they don't blink an eye. Other species, you change a little bit and they're done.
They're done. You know,
and my existence.
With the current weather change too, like summer, I don't have an issue. You know, obviously it's fine. The temperatures it's hot, but it's more consistent. But right now, when it's hot, cold, or then it'll also be ending up cold, you know, the incubator basically is a whole different thing now. So when I think about it in my brain and how I'm trying to do timing sometimes, I try not to have eggs go from summer and then it just changes to winter, you know, like where the temperatures start to change so much, because we're in California, and even though I might say that it's gone colder, the days are still 85 and sometimes even 90 degrees, you know, and so
that's crazy, man.
But it was like 85, 87 here the other day, and within November too, and so you know, it's just like, okay, but the it's cold at nighttime, and so what I don't want to have is eggs go from that hot weather and then transition into cold. I think it has to do with maybe some of the issues with kinks or stuff like that I've had in the past. I've had kinks happen on two hatchlings, and basically if I go back, they hatched in winter. So yeah, I don't know. And then the stuff that hatched just recently and the stuff that's hatched before winter, summertime, like they were bred in winter, had eggs, but hatched in the summer, right? And, that seems to be working a little bit better for temperature changes and things like that for me. So.
Odds are that's the difference as well. I have one room that is strictly for incubation.
Oh,
it's
nice.
My office, so it's a closed room that gets a little bit warmer than any other room in the house if you just close the door because it has its own heater in there. So that stability, I think, plays a big role. And I have the opposite problem with Kai. Summer sucks. Yeah. My rooms are always at their coldest because all my stuff's in the basement. That's when that room has the opposite problem where it can become too cold. So then I have to open windows in that room. I much prefer wintertime because my temperatures are much more stable.
Oh, see, where I'm at now, it's actually good. I have a basement here, which is kind of rare out in California, but it actually stays pretty consistent throughout the year within, I would say, 5 degrees because of the other things that are down there now. So I think it's going to work out a lot better for me for incubation purposes. But man, if I were to build one now, I mean, strictly talking about like long-term incubation type of eggs, monitor eggs and whatnot, it would be large enough box to handle what I need, but good amount of insulation, like we talked about. Yes, some fans in there to just circulate air around, but I'd love to be able to control those fans a little more as well. So really dial them down so it's just barely moving air. For me, that would work really well instead of just blasting air at a certain rate. But also like a double door system. So you have your regular insulated door that you can close, but once you open that, you actually have a secondary door that's just like a glass panel or a plexiglass panel because it would actually be better on the temps. So you can see inside your incubator, and as long as you're using like the sim container boxes, you could see inside. But you don't have to open up that secondary door if you don't need to yet. And then like you were saying, those sandblast cabinets that have the gloves built in?
Yeah.
or like on some alien movie where they're trying to manipulate whatever's in there. That's what I would have. I'd be sticking my hands in these big rubber gloves and opening boxes.
I was going to say, just do Kai Fawn's little modification that he has with the grasshoppers, just with a little latex.
Exactly. Do something like that, just enough for your hands to get in there and mess around.
Pry the lids off and close this thing.
That'd be some crazy Jurassic Park stuff.
It would, right?
It's like basically
appropriate with large monitors.
Might as well just go steal a baby incubator. The ones in the hospital in the ICU.
Don't tempt me.
Yeah, right. Or for even if you can't do that, for people that are if you only have a couple species, let's say they're snake species, you don't have to really worry about this. But say you're a keeper who's doing monitors and you have I don't know, throw something out there. You're doing peach throats and you get eggs and it's the only thing you're working with, and you want to not have this issue. You got an incubator set up. If you put it in a room, go buy like a grow tent or something and put it around it. Maybe that would help. These are just different ideas off the top of my head. Because you walk into that.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go for it.
John A. told me the advice he always gave me was, if you can't get it off the ground, carpeting. Mm-hmm. Find the warmest room in your house if you're in a cold area like we are, because I'm in Ohio and he's in New York. If you're in a hot spot, obviously you pick the cooler room that's more moderate. The idea is you want a consistent temperature room that we don't have like the fluctuations Kai's talking about and I was talking about before. You got to try to find, if you can, and sometimes you don't have that opportunity, right, but the most consistent room you can. Get it off of floor temps. Do not press it against a wall.
Yeah.
Most people don't think about that sort of thing.
It'll absorb the temperatures coming from the ground and the draft that goes through the wall. It's crazy how
that's what I say. I keep them off.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's crazy.
even the vents in that room. Yeah, where your air vents are. You don't want an air vent blowing directly onto the back of that incubator. So if you can move it from, man, that
was pretty. That was a pretty good go on incubators, man. Because
no kidding.
Really,
unfortunately, Rudy Colas, my biggest damning thing was incubation. I have learned a lot about incubators in the last year.
Yeah. I learned the same with Kimberly's.
Yeah. I'm still learning. Good Lord.
I have a bag full of dead Kimberly's to show for it.
Hey, I saved a lot of those as basically baby python food when I had stubborn feeders. Yeah, those dead baby monitors went down pretty well. So we had talked about Nile monitors. I think you gave us the real nice overview of what you got going on with them. Temps wise, what you're feeding them, kind of success you've had in incubation. What about you kind of touched on what do you allow them for, I guess, water? If you're treating them like a water monitor, what are you putting inside the cage with them?
So my waters vary by cage and by what part of the laying cycle they're in, as funny as that sounds. So when I'm doing my pairings, typically I will be giving them a much larger water feature, like those big painter's tubs. The big black painter's tubs are like 4 feet long. My Niles the adults will get that while I'm pairing them together. But when the female is getting ready to lay, I actually only I do this with Salvatore and most other species. I give her about a quarter size of the water bowl that is changed 2 or 3 times a day. Cause again, it's a smaller water bowl. They get dirty easier, to avoid them laying accidentally in the water bowls. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of times where, especially when you're on a species you're trying to learn, say your nesting is just a little bit off, a little dry or a little wet, the first place the monitors tend to go is the warm water bowl.
Yeah.
You will find a lot of dumped eggs in a warm water bowl. So I try to exclude that option. Don't be laying in there close to laying. Don't be getting any bad ideas. It's there for drinking. It's there for, you can get a soak if you'd like, but you're not going to be having as much space basically to move around.
Yeah.
And as soon as she lays her egg, she gets her big feature back. Basically, as soon as I remove the nest is pulled for the water feature.
Very nice. Oh, and another thing you touched on was removing the male. So with this kind of setup, you have a place to put the male. I have empty cage syndrome to the extreme. When you have a large breeding collection, I have probably 4 or 5 empty cages at any given time. I used to be real excited with 1 empty cage. And then I had 4 females cycle at the exact same time, and I didn't know where to put these 5-foot males at the time. I had a bunch of Salvatore that were large.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is great. Now I got to build these cages on the fly and try to make something work. So, like I said, now I have a few empty cages at all times.
Yeah, right? I got a couple empty.
And a lot of times you'll see a lot of my cages are 8x8 builds, the new style. You see those big white cages I have now. Mm-hmm. So they're 8x8s that have a wall in between them with a opening divider or door. And that's usually how I reintroduce them. So it also gives them a little more space.
Very nice.
That's how 90% of my new setups are. The Niles are the only ones not set up like that yet. The females on the end of I have, what's that? It's a 12x8x6. They're all set up in right now. It's set up in 8x4x6, 8x4x6, 8x4x6.
Uh-huh.
And she's the end cage, and the male's cage is separated from hers. So I have to actually lift him into the cage, which is really fun. Luckily, he's starting to get that feeding response that I love so much because I can lead him right into a bin and then right into the female's cage.
Yeah, that's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love bins. And one thing that people don't give enough credit to, and I learned in large monitors, which Niles apply to for sure, you should have a fishing net in your collection. This is going to sound funny. Bill Albright told me this, and he justified it in a way I had never thought about. Because the inner reptile lover, you might say to me, it's like, oh, that's so crude, that's rough, would you rather them attribute your hands to that negative interaction or a tool?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're quick enough about it, what is really more damaging? The long process of trying to grab this thing and stressing it out, or a quick swipe and dump, basically, you might say, into a cage.
Yeah. I like that a lot, actually.
I started doing that with Salvadori when we had our pair here, and that was a lifesaver more than once for medical procedures. I mean, I would put that on a care sheet for large monitors, a musky net.
Yeah. I think I'm going to get one for the blue tails when
I would genuinely get a size for that because they save so much of the dangerous part of the interaction. It's in a net, so now you can either, if you have to pin the animal for veterinary services, you can. If you have to remove a male because you were like, I've been late before, you got to get that thing out right now, and you need the quickest, least stressful thing you can do. Well, you running around a cage isn't going to do any favors.
Right. All right. We're at about the hour and 45-minute mark. So, and we've covered a good amount. Anything else with Niles that you think you should touch on to kind of complete what's gone into this?
Humidity. If you had to ask what is killing 90% of Niles, I think it's humidity. I believe that I always say keep them like a water monitor. I should probably preface that comment. Keep them how I would keep a water monitor. I'm sorry, the methods that are used for water monitors and fish tanks, I don't believe are adequate enough. I believe the humidity requirements are higher. I genuinely keep mine in damn near sealed PVC cages. That the only thing giving them those air drafts are my gaps in building. Yeah, they're not. Right. They are not big cut holes meant to dry out the cage.
Yeah.
If you're going to have to do vents, keep them low.
Yeah.
Don't put the vents up high. That'll help you with that humidity.
I like it.
I think that is the key. I think that's the biggest thing that we're doing wrong with Niles.
Yeah. And I think so. Well, to touch on when you don't have the ventilation, and you have touched on kind of the mixture of soil you're also using, because I think that plays a lot into when you have to keep something wet, or you when you're going to keep something more wet, more humid, having the right mix in there actually plays a big role on some of your troubles down the road too.
I agree, and that's why I said I decided not to seal the bottom of those cages after the fact. Mm-hmm. They were working like drains so nicely that with like the cypress or the cocoa peat and all that, that's very airy substance. It's very loose. It allows moisture to go through very easily. That gets rid of stagnation. That gets rid of bacterial overgrowth. That gets rid of fungus. I mean, you wonder how is it so humid? Asher came in the one day and goes, "How is it so humid? Are you sure you don't need to cool it down a little bit in there? Like, how's there no mold?" First of all, there's no mold because my cages have gaps and they allow airflow. Yeah. But like I said, the substrate, it all plays a role. And we start focusing on those basic things before you start worrying about all the cork tubes, all the hides. Make sure every corner of that cage is the right temperature and humidity. When you put a hide box in there, that can alter the temperature and humidity of that section of cage. Mm-hmm. Temp gun that. Find out what it changed it to.
Right.
Very small details, I think, would change so many things. So many on random deaths, we might say, failure to thrive.
Right. You brought that up just so for the smaller nest boxes, it was as simple as instead of putting the nest box on the cool, I'd say towards the middle, towards the cool end, to put it in that mid 80 degree range. And then I would temp gun behind that, and it'd be this cold spot, this unusable spot back there. And plus, if the animal were to dig down into the bottom of the nest box on that side, I'm only using half my nest box, basically. It's only usable to the animals. It was as simple as putting 2 bricks underneath a nest box to cause the ambience around it to change. I mean, just for everybody out there, play around with your setups. If you're not seeing something that you like, doing something as simple as that can change it.
The small nest box thing, I actually did something with the Rudy Cola thing very similar. We were finding some of the corners were getting into that 60s range. I told you they don't do well with that. Mm-hmm. We changed our nest boxes from heat pads to rip to cable, so that the heating element goes all the way across that back section when we're doubling them up in the nest area, which heated that back corner. All of a sudden, that was a cool spot originally.
Okay, so are you doing like double nest box?
Double binning, double binning.
Okay, yeah.
And the one Rudy Cola's cage, I know someone's going to say, "Oh, your one doesn't." I'm sorry, I cracked the outer layer one. I got to change it.
Yeah. I like that Repta cable actually a lot. I've had to use it in the vision racks for some of the snakes and everything, but I actually like that product a lot, especially because you can buy 150 feet of this stuff.
Is
it 150 feet?
They go all kinds of ranges. They go 20, 40, 100 something.
Yeah.
I like them a lot because even though they say they're not waterproof, in my experience, they've been a lot more waterproof than the heat pads or similar products.
Right.
I know they're not meant to be submerged in any way. I'm not saying to do that, but I've noticed a lot less burning, a lot less melting, a lot less odd things basically with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it very consistent across the board for a lot of things. So, all right. So this last little bit we got left, Kai, you kind of touched on your recent success too. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that. What happened in your life here?
I hatched out a coli the other day.
Just that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it, man. You know, at the end of the year, twice in a year is I'd say good for me. So I'm going to be selling my coli now because I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. I mean,
congratulations.
I kind of have gotten to that point though. It's like, damn, this is a whole lot going on right now with all the lizards pairing, and I have quite a few animals. I mean, even I think 10 coli, something like that. And I just my eyes are closed. I'm covering my eyes, but I just bought another one too. So yeah, man. And, I don't know. So I was just like, I was supposed to buy a car, but Lynn's dad actually gave me a car.
Nice.
I'm like, all right, I guess I got a little play money.
So you got coli money.
I got lizard funds, a car.
Yeah, the guy's willing to work with me, so I'm good with it. It's not anything crazy. I just, takes care of me with I take care of him with payments, and I get what I get, and yeah, man. The fact that for years there were no imports, there were what came in with Michael, and then he had raised those up to basically figure out what he's going to do with them. And then obviously they were spread out between me and Aubrey, and then the other couple that maybe around in the States. But other than that, man, get them in and all that stuff like that. Recently, within the last 6 months, 8 months, I basically jumped on every opportunity. So just to get a little, every import was, and I think there's been a few, I'd say like 3 or 4 that I'm aware of. And so everyone I just picked and kind of, I kind of get to cherry pick, I guess. I think I get the cherry pick after the cherry picker. There you go. Yeah. And it's
hard to work up that ladder.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay because I don't really want fresh imports. Don't get me wrong. I bring them in, but I'm not going to put them in the room with all my other established things that I already cherished. And so I just did it. I don't want to be dumb. And, maybe they caught something on import or they already had something or something is festering. It's a scare. I already had a scare with the first ones. And so, it's just like, all right, everything's good. Whatever happened was fixed. And I was kind of stressing there for a minute because you don't know what it is, And I had another gentleman who's actually a zookeeper. He messaged me about the same thing and asked me what I did with it. And I just, me and the vet just basically hit him with antibiotics. And I guess it must have been something internally bacterial or something like that for the antibiotics.
To knock it out.
Yeah, to fix it.
Next time, if you have that happen, there were a few cases that were very similar like that, where the reptiles were not coughing at all, but it was diagnosed as bacterial pneumonia.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, and so
there were a few cases of that in Salvatore years ago, and I attributed it to free roaming. I always said it seemed like it was the most free roaming monitors that seemed healthy, and then they just crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's tough. I try not to overdo it, but yeah, man, I made coli, bought a coli, and so a little, there's a good amount of consistency in what I'm kind of doing. Don't get me wrong, I've been like, I want collared lizards, I want chuckwallas, and where I live and keeping them outdoors. Keeping them outdoors is perfect. I like underrated lizards a whole ton. So, I try to keep it consistent with what I'm doing, and Yeah, man. I don't know what's in for next year. I know I do have a couple pairs that are ready, some that are growing into age, and then some that I don't even know when they'll go. The wire eye are still a mystery to me. They actually haven't grown at all in the year that I've had them. They may have grown an inch or two, but nothing significant like what a year would typically show in a monitor, right? So, yeah, I think
how big are they, like, total?
Maybe 18 inches, 20 inches max.
Oh.
Yeah, they're small.
Are they supposed to get bigger?
No, they're supposed to stay tiny. So I don't know when they'll mature, and with my experience, most of my mangrove stuff matures after 2 to 3 years is when they start to lay. While in comparison, like an Ackie or an Argus monitor, they can go as early as 10 months, something like that,
Right.
So the Indicate stuff does take a while. I do think, although I'm already working with their temperatures now, basically going from a little bit of food to a lot of food, and then not much humidity to a lot of humidity to see if that triggers anything. But I think they're still young. And so I don't really know what's going on. I've seen them mount each other a couple times, but I don't, And I'm just going to wait.
Do they have access to a nest?
Yeah, they have access to a nest bin. Yeah. But then again, I still think they're a little small. Right. Yeah, they have a nest bin with a heat pad on the side. What sucks is that they stay in there like it's a hive, though. They don't treat it like a nest bin. And that's annoying, And then the thing is that they only come out for about an hour or two a day and then disappear. So as far as me getting to do much with them, it's hard. They're imports. They're an Indicus for one, so they're very shy and all that other stuff. And I can see them in the reflection when I walk into the room of another glass cage. That's how.
That reminds me of the Timor monitors too. That's it's like, I'll look at another cage to see if one's out. Wow.
Yeah, I look at another cage to see that reflection of those lizards in that cage that I'm trying to see. Yeah.
Well, I wonder about overall size. One, it's a newer species, right? But it kind of, like with my little foray into the Timorensis species and looking around at some of the pictures that were out there, some of the animals I got my hands on.
Yeah, they're about the size of the
so I have that one that's super gold. Its tongue's different than any of the other ones I have. It's just blind. But I remember reaching out to you a few years ago when I got it, and I was like, I don't even know if this thing's a Timorensis. I don't know what the heck this is. Yeah. And but I don't know if I'll ever know. But so that's why I was asking, are they full grown at where they're at? Are they just going to stay kind of small size?
I think they're going to grow some more. Yeah, I definitely think they're going to grow some more. And I just don't think it's more of like, in 5 years, they'll probably still only be like 24 inches,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I just want to get an idea on when the texture maturity really starts to kick in and all that stuff like that. So, yeah.
Huh. That's
yeah. No, go ahead.
This Timor I'm talking about, he has a nub tail. When I got him, he had a nub tail, but I think overall length, I mean, he's bigger he's about the size of what I would say like my large Tristis are, overall proportions. So
that's kind of,
yeah, he's really big. So I'm wondering if he's actually something else, but who knows?
It sounds a lot like one that Jonathan Hoflich had for a few years. He had a beautiful Timor. It was golden patterned.
Uh-huh.
The thing was like probably 20 inches long almost.
It might be.
Leopard Timors are
Timor. That was big I've ever seen.
Leopard Timors are one of my favorites to look at. Very gorgeous.
Oh, they're cool. Yeah. Those specifically are real cool. I think they had a chance to come in from Europe or wherever that guy's at a few years back. So I don't know if that's still open. I mean, it's an Indo monitor, so I would think it might be possible, but there's been a lot of changes over there in the government and whatnot. So who knows for sure. But I'll send you after this, Rob. I'll send you just a picture. I'll go over there and grab them, take a picture, tell me what you think. Because
yeah, I was gonna say I'll try to find that picture because I have some from John when I went over to his place here a few years back. I'll try to find a picture of it.
Okay. I'd love to know what he is. He's just blind as a bat. So he needs he's my special needs monitor. I have to basically put the food right in front of him. And it can't be it can't swing on a tong too well. You have to grab it with a tong where it can be grabbed by it. Because he'll just knock it from side to side like he's boxing with it. And that poor guy. But he'll live out the rest of his years here. He's an old guy. All right, well, let's touch on. There's some other things I noticed going on in the monitor world. You guys probably know more than I do, but I saw someone got a clutch of bluetail monitor eggs. Which that's awesome.
Brian DeRuca. He also breeds Melanis, or has bred.
Okay,
Melanis. Yeah. So he's out there. I don't think he's on social media a lot. I mean, he might be there every day, but I don't think he's posting all the time. But he does great work. He does great work, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a few other things. Now that I hear the name, the under the post I saw whatever, maybe it's a business name too. Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he did Melanis. I don't know what other indica stuff, but it's like they kind of say they're kind of very similar animals, right? Within very similar realms of the habitat and where they're from in the world and temperatures and stuff.
That's
like
awesome.
That. So, yeah, man.
And is there any other things going on out there that?
Linnea just.
That's what I'm thinking. Go ahead.
Oh no! Go ahead. No, go. You go. I just said
someone got some tree monitor eggs.
The
yellow spotted ones.
But they're not. So what are they called? What's the
Bohemai?
Yeah,
the golden.
Bohemai
That's the one. Bohemai or whatever.
It looks like Bohemi or something. Yeah, Bohemai.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Right, and he got those in. I think he got those from Joe. I don't know, several months ago. And Cody's been helping him with a lot of what he's got going on and things like that, and whatever else he grasps from just other keepers and stuff. But he has those. Yeah. I think he's got some blue tree eggs and some other stuff. But yeah, he's on the road to cranking out some pretty cool stuff.
This is so awesome. What a time to be alive in monitors, huh?
We're the best year.
It's a problem when you're an addict.
Yeah. It's as far as all of us and how we work together and what I used to see how people work together, now it's like, wow, you could see the results of it,
right.
And it's like, okay, I actually thought about this the other day, and I don't mean to go more into the recording time, but we probably don't even need to import water monitors anymore unless it's new bloodline, right? We just make so many, right? Just things like that. It's not to say that it's just to shut it off, but we produce so many that I don't know. It's just there's no need to really import because then that'll actually mess up with the actual captive bred sales.
Yeah.
The amount of Kimberly's.
I think one every 5 years.
Say that again.
I think one import every 5 years is what I always said. I think should happen. That would allow. All species. I think that would force breeding. As Kai said, new bloodlines. We do not need 1,000 more Salvatore. We don't need 1,000 more Niles. We have a ton of blood here.
Yeah.
Right now. Unused blood, you might say.
Yeah.
But
that's something I've been passionate about for a while. That's why I keep grabbing the imports. They shouldn't be pets. They should not be pets.
No, I agree 100% with that.
And so the monitor hobby, I'd say, is just grown so significantly well. And there's just achievements left and right. There's a few more species to really knock down. But other than that, even things that are like, I don't know, Griseus or people doing savannas and things like that. So it's just a lot of good growth, I'd say.
I want to know how we're going to get these frugivore lizard monitors over. I know Tim Healy has. Tim Healy has a couple of them.
Yeah.
Why can't we get a couple of these things?
I can't wait either. Gray's monitors are still one of my absolute favorite.
I need some.
Yeah, they are beautiful, beautiful animals, and I mean, just one day, hopefully, we need some things to happen over there and with those governments and whatnot. But I hope they get into the right hands of people. And should I even say that? Sometimes, well, I'll say it. So for some of these animals, I'd rather them go into certain private keepers, even hobbyists, if you want to call them that, rather than some of the zoos.
I agree entirely.
Zoos have had them.
There's no red tape.
I looked into getting my license for a zoo. Just so you know, it's not everything it's penned up for. They control everything you breed. They tell you what you can do, what you can't do, what you can touch, what eggs you have to throw away.
You have to ask to turn a light bulb. That's how.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You have to ask to change a light bulb, and so it just it puts a damper on your own free spirit thinking type. Where you get to just act on your own.
Right.
So don't get me wrong. I know
all those resources they have available.
What's that?
All the resources available to these facilities, and you limit what they can do. Kind of like I was just saying, whether they're being creative and trying a species that no one else has access to. People can't tell me that the fact that we have more Cayman rock iguanas and different kind of rock iguanas in Florida than we do on their natural territory isn't a good thing. I find that to be a great thing.
Right.
I mean, I genuinely believe that is a great thing, and that we could do the same thing with dozens of monitor species and other reptiles. But I mean, especially if the zoos actually got on board, you might say, and were allowed to just kind of do it, I think we would just see. I think it's a giant excuse. Create a problem that only you can solve.
And don't get me wrong. I think it's zoos not working with private keepers, but there are a handful of really good zookeepers that are also keepers, and then they contribute.
Yes,
they apply. They essentially, it's not like a wall of BS that they can't show or tell you. You know what I mean? They work with you. I mean, there's some limits, but it's like we work with Benjamin, and he's a zookeeper, and he also kind of does things professionally and things like that. So it's like for us to work together, right? He just dug up his first infertile clutch of Dorianus eggs himself. So nice. Just things like that go forward towards the hobby in the right direction, and then and of course a lot of guys are trying to get that crown of being the first to hatch Dorianus, and man, it's I
salute you. I'm counting on that to be over now.
Yeah, please be first, please be second. I have some, but if someone else out there would kindly bring them to the hobby in regular numbers, my ego has no problem with that, or any other animal out there. Do it so we have them.
You know what, Dorianus is just too much beast for me. Just too much.
Yeah,
beast.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. I'll be honest. Now that I'm hoping this guy has repeated success and maybe cranks a couple out, and then I might, if someone's looking for more and they're having success, I might go that route. If sand monitors were the largest lizard I have, I'd probably still be pretty dang happy for the time being, for the foreseeable future. So when you get into like what you're working with, Rob, I mean, a 7-foot animal is
but he has 10 of those.
But going from a 3-foot to a 7-foot, is an incredible amount. I mean, it doesn't scale up in your head like it should, like it does in reality, when
and you swear a 7-foot lizard when you see one until you really see a 7-foot lizard.
And it's not even that.
Oh my Lord, I've called lizards 7 feet that were not close.
It's not just that. What I'm seeing in my head is 7 large water things my back has to carry across the floor. down to drain.
He wasn't so darn busy. He's supposed to plumb my place.
Yeah. So I that's how I see it. Luckily, I have in my keeping. I only keep water dish like big water pans in the setups for so long. I use the water cup holder things that you guys have seen now. And I use those for drinking water, and then I'll put a little kitty litter pan in there. And other than that, that's all I really do. Anything that needs a big, huge water bin, no, thank you. I'm okay right now.
That's why I don't keep certain species. I
downsized after all the health stuff. I sold my biggest pair. I sold the 7-foot sulfur. I sold my female Karma. That big bib female was dropping 20 to 30 eggs every time. Wow. I mean, she dropped 100 eggs last season by herself.
That's incredible.
And
that's absolutely incredible.
But those the use of the water features that were required for those animals.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to say that basically 90% of my Salvatore are Celebensis blood in some way now that I've produced. And basically my biggest monitors are Niles. Maybe the Ornatus, depending on how big they get now.
I will take on possibly Mertens at one point. We'll see.
Water.
That's a lot of water too. And this would be quite a few years. Other people would basically have to stop breeding them before even trying to take that on. And that'd be
I think to have fun with those species, you might as well just set the plumbing up even before you set up anything else.
That's what would happen. Yeah.
That was my big mistake. I said when I built my room in 2 months, I did everything from the generators to the electric. That if I would have thought of the plumbing, man, I would have saved myself so many. I mean, I was in the hospital for damn near a year and out.
Oh man,
that's at least
you know how many time?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, and that would have made my life so much easier for my wife when she was filling up water bowls to be able to just pull a drain and fill it up with the hose because we have a hose downstairs already. All you need is to drain down and you'd be done.
Yeah.
You got half the work in.
Great conversation for like an actual topic of not just cages, but like the infrastructure to the whole setup. Like that's got to be pipes and heating elements, heated floors, water, whatever cage builds that are quite large, and they're like a heat pad doesn't do anything. A little lamp doesn't do anything. You have to put a whole lot more into it than just, I think most of us still kind of keep it where we still can use a heat lamp with the regular setup and throw soil in there. But this is like having truckloads of, even if it's a completely decked out room, it's the whole thing that makes the room flow well. Because I couldn't, if without any of that stuff, that's why I don't have water monitors or any feature that has.
I need a stair lift for all the dirt.
Yeah. I'm already doing
a good stair lift.
My plan is the backyard is now there's like 3 different levels back there. So the top I will have the shop on. The plumbing will have drains down into which will be the next level, which will be basically like a big greenhouse level. And then the tier under that will be the open garden level. That's the idea anyway. And the idea is to use all that gray water, basically that wastewater, to go downhill for stuff that I'm just like rinsing things out, not using any chemicals or whatnot, and have it flow downhill into that stuff. But these are just great ideas at this point. We'll see when I actually get there, and I got 2 months to make it happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, trust me, man. I was so proud of me and Steve. We built easily. I mean, we filled a almost 2,300 square foot room in 2 months with cages. I mean, we probably built 50 feet of cages, something like that.
Nah, man, you have a lot of room still. You got like you can cartwheel in your thing. I'm jealous of it.
Oh,
my room.
I have a lot of room. It's the money to fill it.
Yeah.
It's right now the money to fill it, and unfortunately, I definitely have the babies to fill it now.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that.
Before we get off, because we kind of talked about all the great stuff going on out there, but we're getting up there in time a little bit too. But for all the people out there working with different animals and whatnot, working with monitors especially, but this is kind of true for reptiles across the board. I just want to say, like, if you kind of notice the market right now for reptiles, there's no good way to put it. It's kind of horrible. Okay.
It's the worst I've ever seen it.
Yes. But if you are looking to get into stuff, it's a great time to get into stuff, but have the right intentions too. Because if you're not going to hold out through the bad times, what you're going to see is a lot of animals that were there to try to big dreams and make a quick buck. They're going to be for sale, or they're already for sale now. And for the people that, I don't know, this is what I'm afraid of, is that you're going to see things not selling or people getting out of animals because the market's not there. And then we're going to be struggling maybe in another few years to group all the Pilbara rock monitors together. What else are out? The King Gorm. I mean, this is just monitors I'm sticking to, but this could happen across any species. Something's going to drop out in price. You think you're going to lose all your money on it. Maybe your intentions were more along making money than it was keeping the animals or whatnot. And not that there can't be both. There can definitely be both, but be careful.
This is where monitors was damning. I heard the best advice ever. I don't know if it was this podcast or one of the lizard podcasts.
We'll say ours. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
The gentleman on there was talking about how if you plan on breeding something, you better plan for also holding back everything you produce for at least a year.
Yeah.
So I built my model based on the fact that I might have to hold back 300 baby monitors.
Yeah.
Including Heloderma and all the other stuff too. But essentially 300 baby monitors could be potentially held back here. It is not as easy as holding back 300 ball pythons.
No,
not at all.
Factor in the fact that is, I mean, you figure 300 babies, if you're just doing baby cages, you're looking at, what is that, 24 by 2s?
Right.
Something like that. I mean, you're going into 34 by 2s.
And I'm actually
how your spreads are,
I'm totally okay with what my indicus give me. So I hatch out a few, and then by the time those are raised up, sold, the other ones replace those. And then there may be a gap of no eggs or no babies, but I'm okay with that too. But having 30 to 40, I couldn't picture 300. So that's why I said, I don't know how you do it, man.
We got about 50 hatched right now between holdbacks and still for sale stuff, basically, at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that included, though, the 300 number included rock pythons. It included Mexican black king snakes, Florida king snakes, Heloderma, bearded dragons. I mean, rudicolus, Niloticus, Salvatore of basically every subspecies.
Right.
It was a year of dreams for me where it was like, I'm going to try this, and it worked. It wasn't something special. It was all the dreams came true, and then the market went like this.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I am glad I planned to hold these things back. I am glad the majority of these are first generation projects for me.
Yeah.
Where I was planning on holding back a lot of them anyways, because I couldn't imagine being in the situation where you didn't plan for this and you have 50 holdbacks. The feed bill alone is going to burn you out.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with Ackies.
I saw a captive bred Celebensis from West Carter for the first clutch ever produced. Wild caught right now go for $1,800. The guy had it for like $900.
See, that's crazy.
That's the start of that sphere that you were talking about. But that's the time to grab these animals up. As funny, as bad as that sounds, make your own, and the people with good intention will survive it.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, I had every intention of having these animals.
Try to have fun. If you're not in it for fun, at least, man, you
won't survive.
Yeah.
No,
have fun. Man.
These things drive me up a wall, and I love it.
Like we get it. They make, you can make money. It's a cool thing or whatever. But man, if you like that more than actually the process and the journey through it, or hatching the babies out and things like that, that's the littlest things that are the most rewarding with these animals. So, we have to be conscious of, sure, they make money, cost money, take money, all that stuff like that. And then you may not get much back. You know what I mean? I pump a ton into mine, but I only hatch a few. And it's because it's not just because they're difficult, but, I still enjoy them as their pets. So some of them are just lone, and then I pair up a few and I try. But
that's why I went so many species.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But I did this. So to be very honest with people, this is what I did with Ackies, because over COVID, animals were selling. People were interested in animals. Why they had to stay inside.
I couldn't keep anything.
Yeah, it's just the truth. So as a lot of breeders did, you ramped up from 21 into 22. And 22, it's like people were allowed to go back outside. And all these breeders are like,
I think all of us can remember the crash in 2009, 2010, right? That economy crash.
Yes. Yes.
I would have to say that pets get put on the back burner when everybody else is trying to survive, and that's what happened then. That's what happened then. I know the world is a little bit different now.
I was going to say, you know what? I think we're in a unique situation with the pets. I think genuinely with people working from home more, they want their at home to be more, you might say, more fun. They want their pet. You see more people that buy dogs. Now, I'm not saying it's always a good thing. You know what? There's a negative side to it. But I genuinely believe our market potential during COVID and all that spiked so high, and it hasn't gone down. The potential has not gone down.
No.
We're just in a hard time right now financially where the markets have to even up with supply and demand. It all has to even out, basically.
Yeah.
It will even out. And there will be buyers again. There will be sellers still. The people that are complaining are the ones who genuinely had no future plan to keep these animals. Yeah, they were waiting for the next triple gene, quadruple gene, whatever species they were in, that you can't wait a year because everything devalues in a year in those markets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, like most
you had mentioned being stuck with.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, man.
I was saying being stuck with 50 babies. I got stuck with a lot of Ackies that I meant to sell, but the thing is, they're all here. They're all living. They're all.
My kids adore the fact they can go downstairs, just slide a cage open, and a dozen babies want to climb on them. It's bad.
Yeah. So I've given a few away to like family members and whatnot, and whether they're little geckos or Ackies or something, but yeah, that's the reality of things. They're all here and not digging up some clutches too, or not trying to breed some things, being very controlled. But I bring this up just with you guys and for the rest of the people out there to also be careful, because this is kind of when things disappear because no one's paying attention. So
it is, and this is the time. This is what I was talking about. This is the time to actually hit it. You know what? Monitors take 6 months to hatch. Our market, quote me now, come June of next year, we will start seeing normality again. That's hatch time for stuff that gets laid in December.
Yep.
You know what? And those things don't go for sale till July, August. But people, like I said, who aren't savvy enough or are too worried about today's profit will be hypocrites, because they will be the ones who dump markets while complaining about markets being dumped.
Yes. Yep.
That same person is the one with half off right now. And I'm the jerk who sometimes usually buys those animals.
Yeah, me too.
You know what? And I have no shame.
I was like, wait.
You're willing to give away 5 years of your work for a couple $100? Done.
Yeah, yes. Especially by
5 years.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't even know if I should say all the things that I've.
We're just going to call them
maybe
quitters.
I saved. Yeah, I save for somebody else's unfortunate circumstances sometimes. Like, oh, that's really bad. Wait, you're selling what?
And you're just trying to help them out. It's obviously
out of the goodness of my heart. But yes. So pay attention to what's going on out there, everybody. And I guess, guys, this has been fun. This has been a lot of fun. So
I had fun.
Yeah, Rob, we'll have to have you on again. On as many times as you want to come on. We can talk monitors. Today was just
I was going to say, you don't know how much I can talk lizards. My wife is sick of me. My friends are sick of me. I'll talk lizards with you guys anytime.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Rob, where can people find you?
Find me just on Facebook and Instagram, Fox Reptiles. You'll find us on, like I said, Instagram or Facebook. We plan on starting a YouTube channel a few months ago. Just haven't gotten there yet. We will have one soon because I want to show the process.
Yes. Yes. Kai, what about you, buddy?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Instagram as big_lizard103. And then I'm mostly on Facebook. So I'm typically just look me up under Kai Fan. Of course, you can hear me here under the NPR network. Where else? I mean, I have a YouTube. I don't really utilize it much, but it's Mangrove Mecca on YouTube. You should be able to see some old videos from a couple years ago, at least on there. But yeah, just mostly on Facebook. And you, man?
Good stuff. You can find me on Instagram at origins_reptile and on Facebook at Origins Reptile. Either one of those work. And just to let everybody know, we're brought to you by the NPR Network, Morelia Python Radio Network. Great bunch of guys over there. Eric is doing all these podcasts. Well, he's not doing all the podcasts. He has his own podcast that he still does. But he has provided an avenue for a lot of other people in the hobby. Honestly, I don't know how I got on here sometimes, but I listen to some of these other guys, these Doctor Who and you know, talking about this and what they've done. And I'm like, I just kept lizards in a box. But the information out there, guys, is amazing. So if you want to keep monitors and you can't right now for whatever reason, but you also have an interest in just keeping reptiles, what could you keep at maybe like room temperatures? Look up the Asian rat snakes, some of those, listen to some of those podcasts. If you live in Florida somewhere, look at what temps you can keep something safely outside and how to do it. If you like the weird stuff, if you get into, well, I say the weird stuff, but for some of these guys, this is, you know, the more obscure it is, who knows, dragon snake, aquatic snake, this kind of only eats this stuff snake. There's guys doing that stuff. There's guys being successful now with that stuff. And just the general overall, if you listen to all of them, bits and pieces, just something that interests you, the overall knowledge that you would acquire to apply into your own animals or your future animals is priceless. I hate to say it, but it is priceless, you know? So I encourage you to get on there, look around, check out their store that they got going on over there. They're still running all the time. Morelia, for people that don't know, Morelia's carpet pythons. So it's Morelia Morelia Python Radio Network. There's still a calendar every year that these guys put out. There's a contest where people are sending in all their pictures of the different species of carpet pythons and other pythons now too, to make up this calendar. Go buy a calendar, hang it up. All kinds of good stuff. So go on their website, check them out. You can find them on all social media platforms too, Facebook, Instagram. You can go onto YouTube to listen to a lot of these podcasts and other major platforms to listen to all of their podcasts if you check them out. All right, guys. That's all I got. So thanks for coming on, Rob.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, guys. Have a good one.
Glad to have you on again.
Anytime, brother. Message anytime.